Chapter 1162. When Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling saw the two figures, they were stunned. The two of them revealed an expression of disbelief. Xiao Chen even rubbed his eyes as if he had seen a ghost. After a long time, the door of white light disappeared. Only then did the two of them come back to their senses. The two of them looked at each other in dismay. Their expressions were very strange. Xiao Chen frowned and asked in a complicated tone, "Little Sister Ling, did I see wrongly? Are they really those two people?" "Yes, yes." Xiao Ling nodded repeatedly. Her eyes flickered with excitement as she waved her little fists excitedly. "Great! I really hit the nail on the head. Young Master Tianxing really came to the Xiao clan. I didn't expect that we would be able to meet again so soon." Xiao Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at her. He teased, "Little Sister Ling, is your mouth blessed? How could you be right about such things? However, I am thinking, who exactly are they? It is impossible for outsiders to enter the Xiao clan. Could they really be disciples of the Xiao clan?" Xiao Ling's imagination ran wild. She suddenly thought of something and said, "Our Xiao clan has existed for more than 1,000 years. We have already spread our branches and leaves and developed very strong. Perhaps their elders were once disciples of the Xiao clan and left for the Central Province continent a few hundred years ago. Now that a few hundred years have passed, a peerless genius appeared among their juniors. Therefore, they wanted to return to the Xiao clan to pay respects to the old ancestor." Xiao Chen originally felt that it was very absurd. However, after thinking carefully, he nodded in agreement and said, "Yes, that is very possible. Little Sister Ling, you are still the smart one. Don't be in a daze. Let's go back quickly and find out who they are." Xiao Ling grabbed his arm and impatiently flew to the Twin Islands to activate the formation door of light. The two of them took out their identity tokens and executed the Xiao clan's formation techniques. Soon, they activated the barrier formation. After a while, a dazzling white light lit up in the middle of the Twin Islands and condensed into a wide door of light. The two of them quickly entered the door of light and disappeared with a whoosh. Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han flew side by side in the sky. They were not very fast. As they hurried, they admired the scenery around them. On the ground, there was a vast grassland that stretched as far as the eye could see. The grass was waist-high, and there were many small trees with flowers and fruits in the grass. 100 miles ahead was a majestic mountain range that stretched for nearly 1,000 miles. It was like a gray dragon lying on the ground. The sky was blue, and there were a few scattered white clouds floating in the sky. It was extremely tranquil. The heaven and earth spirit chi in the air was extremely dense, even condensing into patches of colorful clouds and thin mist, sprinkling down tiny drops of spirit liquid. While they were flying, Ji Tianxing couldn't help but exclaim in admiration, "I really didn't expect that in the depths of the barren and desolate great swamp of the southern wasteland, there would be such an otherworldly paradise with abundant natural powers." It was no wonder that the Xiao clan was able to flourish and produce so many elites. The choice and decision of the Xiao clan's patriarch was indeed bold and wise. Only in this way can a clan continue for 1,000 years without declining, and instead become more and more prosperous. Xiao Han slightly nodded and said with a smile, "Young Master Ji is overpraising me. This grotto heaven in the great swamp of the southern wasteland is indeed a paradise. But compared to the many wonders of the central state, it's not worth mentioning. As for our Xiao clan's patriarch, he indeed has great wisdom and perseverance. I also deeply admire him for this. If the Xiao clan were to emerge and compete with the 3 great ancient clans, it might be possible for the Xiao clan to become the 4th great ancient clan. However, the Xiao clan's patriarch once said that everything in the world follows the heavenly Tao. When things reach an extreme, they will move in the opposite direction. If the Xiao clan were to participate in worldly affairs and fight for power, it's very likely that it would be destroyed in advance. That Duanmu Shi and the Murong clan are examples. They prospered for 1,000 years. Now, one has perished, and the other is declining. Thinking of this, the wisest choice for the Xiao clan to live in seclusion in the great swamp of the southern wasteland. Unknowingly, the two had already flown 100 miles and arrived in the sky above the majestic mountain range. Ji Tianxing looked down at the mountain range below. He saw countless houses and palaces built on the mountain peak, forming many huge manors. In each manor, there were ancient-style palaces built. There were many guards and martial artists moving about. Behind the mountain range, there was a vast grassland. In the middle of the grassland, there were a few clear lakes that were as calm as mirrors. The surface of the lakes sparkled. On the grassland around the lakes, there were all kinds of spirit beasts. There were white cranes, wind birds, flame rhinoceroses, golden-winged apes, and so on. It was obvious that the houses on the mountain peak that stretched for dozens of miles were where the Shao clan lived. And the grassland behind the mountain range was where the Shao clan reared their spirit beasts. Ji Tianqing roughly estimated that the manors on the mountain peak could house at least 5,000 to 6,000 people. It was obvious that the Shao clan was indeed a prosperous ancient clan. They had a very prosperous population. Young Master Ji, we have arrived. Shao Han stopped flying and landed on a huge manor on the mountain peak. That is Tingfeng Garden. It's also where my third uncle lives. In the past 100 years, I have only returned a few times. But every time, I stayed in third uncle's Tingfeng Garden. As they spoke, the two landed at the entrance of Tingfeng Garden. At the wide and solemn entrance, there were 6 gods in armor standing guard. They looked solemn and serious. After seeing Ji Tianqing and Shao Han, one of the guards hurriedly came forward to greet them. He bowed respectfully and asked, "Elder, may I know which branch you are from? Who are you looking for in Tingfeng Garden?" Shao Han took out an identity token and said solemnly, "I am from the third branch, Shao Han. I am here to visit the third elder." Shao Han? The guard was stunned for a moment. Then, he revealed a look of admiration and quickly bowed. "You are young Master Han from our third branch? The divine general who guards the Eastern Sea?" The guards were all excited, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Obviously, they had heard of Shao Han's reputation but had never seen him in person. Shao Han nodded slightly and put away the token. He stepped through the entrance and entered Tingfeng Garden. As he walked into the manor, he did not forget to explain to Ji Tianqing, "The people who live here are all descendants of the Shao clan. Even if they are strangers, they are still related by blood. Therefore, when people get to know each other, they will call themselves the descendants of so-and-so, to distinguish them. There are many people in the Shao clan. Other than the ancestor and grand elder, the 9 elders are usually in charge of the clan's affairs. My father and the third elder are cousins. The third elder is my uncle. Therefore, I am a descendant of the third branch. Ever since my parents passed away, third uncle has been taking care of me and teaching me cultivation. Third uncle is best at refining weapons. He is in charge of the clan's spiritual treasure hall. He is in charge of refining treasures for the clan. Unfortunately, third uncle's health has always been poor. He has hidden injuries that are difficult to heal. I have been worried but have not had the time to visit him. I am ashamed to say that." Chapter 1163. After a while, Ji Tianqing followed Shao Han into the main hall of Tingfeng Garden. The guard went to report the news, and the two of them sat down in the main hall to drink tea and wait patiently. Not long after, the guard returned with a white-haired old man in a white robe. The old man was 6 feet tall, and his body was a little stooped. He held a walking stick in his hand, and his footsteps were a little unsteady. His face was withered and aged, and he looked like he had one foot in the grave and was on the verge of death. His weathered face was full of wrinkles, and his sunken eyes were a little dim. The aura of his magic power was also faintly discernible and very dim. Ji Tianqing could see that this old man was originally a transcendent expert in the spirit refinement realm. However, the old man was already old, and his body was plagued with internal injuries and hidden illnesses. His vitality was withered, and his soul power was weak. He did not have much time left. Seeing the old man in this state, Shao Han immediately stood up with an expression of disbelief, and called out in a worried tone, "Third uncle, your injuries. Did they relapse?" As he spoke, he quickly went up and helped the white-haired old man to the main seat. The white-haired old man was the third elder. After he slowly sat down, his withered face squeezed out a smile, and he looked kindly at Shao Han. He nodded and said, "Shao Han, you're finally back. I haven't seen you for more than 20 years, and you haven't changed at all. Seeing that you're getting better and better, this old man is relieved." Cough, cough, cough. As he spoke, the third elder coughed violently. He used a handkerchief to cover his mouth, and a dark red bloodstain could be seen on the white handkerchief. It was a shocking sight. Shao Han became more and more worried and hurriedly asked, "Third uncle, you've been recuperating in the clan all this time. Why did your injuries relapse and worsen? Did something happen? The third elder forced out a kind smile and waved his hand. Nothing happened, it's just that I'm old and weak, and I can't take it anymore. Before he could finish, the guard beside him couldn't help but mutter, Third elder's body isn't good to begin with, and when the clan needs a set of 6 directions magic treasure, third elder can only work hard to refine it, and because of this, his vitality is greatly damaged. Yet, those young masters and young ladies keep begging third elder to refine magic treasures for them so that they can get a good ranking in the Holy Fire Festival examination. This guard was the captain of the Tingfeng Gardens Guards and a trusted aide of the third elder. Of course, he knew the real reason. He was very clear about the third elder's injuries and situation. He was worried and angry, so he couldn't help but say it. The moment Xiao Han heard, he immediately frowned and said with a face full of anger, "This bunch of little brats are seriously too outrageous." In order to fight for a chance to leave the Xiao clan, he actually came up with such a method. No wonder third uncle's injuries worsened. What are the names of those brats? I'll go and settle the score with their elders. The guard quickly replied, "There's young Master Xiao Chong from the 2nd branch and young Miss Xiao Xue from the 5th branch." Without waiting for him to finish, the third elder raised his hand and interrupted him. "Shut up. The younger generation of disciples are working hard to cultivate. Isn't it to see the outside world? These little brats are all very outstanding. How can I bear to reject them? Xiao Han, don't pursue this matter anymore. Let them be." "Third uncle. But your body." Xiao Han was still angry and refused to give up. The third elder lightly shook his head and said, "Let's not talk about this matter anymore. Xiao Han, you haven't introduced this person beside you to me. This is..." As he spoke, he turned his head to look at Ji Tianqing and a kind smile appeared on his old face. Xiao Han quickly introduced, "Third uncle, this is the young Master Ji that I mentioned in the letter. The Emperor's most valued Tianqin region lord and the most outstanding prince in the monarch's mansion." Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and bowed to the third elder. He said, "Junior Ji Tianqing greets third elder." The third elder's eyes instantly lit up. He nodded happily and said, "Good. As expected of the #1 genius of the human race. What a heroic and extraordinary genius." Ji Tianqing smiled kindly and said modestly, "Third elder is too kind." The third elder leaned on his walking stick and said earnestly to Xiao Han, "Xiao Han, although everyone knows young Master Ji's identity, you can't mention it to anyone else in the Xiao clan. Regarding the matter of meeting the old ancestor, the other clan elders were against it. I tried my best to get everyone's agreement and allowed you to meet the old ancestor." Xiao Han nodded to show that he understood. He said, "Thank you, third uncle. We've troubled you." The third elder waved his hand and said, "However, the old ancestor will only meet you after the Holy Fire Festival. For the next few days, you can stay in the Tingfeng Garden and have a good rest." After that, the third elder ordered the guard beside him, "Bring them to the guest room." Xiao Han could only bow and take his leave. He brought Ji Tianqing out of the hall and followed the guard to the guest room in the side courtyard. After Xiao Han and Ji Tianqing left, the third elder couldn't help but cough a few times. His dry face became even more sallow. At this moment, another guard rushed to the entrance of the hall and reported respectfully, "Third elder, young Master Chan and young Miss Ling, have returned. They are outside the hall and are asking to see you." When the third elder heard this, he quickly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said calmly, "Let them in." That guard turned and left. Soon, he brought a young man and a young woman into the hall. This young man and woman were Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling. After the two entered the hall, they stood in front of the third elder and bowed obediently with a smile on their faces. Chen greets third elder. Ling greets third grandpa. The third elder looked at the two of them kindly and nodded slightly. He said with a gratified tone, "The two of you are finally back. Fortunately, you are safe and sound. Did you find the cloud-spotted beast?" Hearing this, Xiao Ling expression changed. She asked subconsciously, "Third grandpa, how did you know that we went to find the cloud-spotted beast?" The third elder stroked his white beard and said with a smile, "Do you think I don't know what you are thinking? Those little fellows came to me to refine magic treasures. How could you sit still? 2 days ago, I knew that the two of you went out, so I asked the guard to ask around. Naturally, I found out everything. The cloud-spotted beast is a powerful demonic beast with the strength of a soul refinement realm cultivator. The two of you were able to return safely. Could it be that you didn't even find the cloud-spotted beast? Xiao Chen said with excitement and anticipation. Third elder, we have already. Xiao Ling glared at him when he was halfway through his words. Then, she pretended to be disappointed and nodded. She said to the third elder, Third grandpa, you guessed right again. The cloud-spotted beast is so powerful. How could we find it so easily? Chapter 1164. Xiao Ling's words did not arouse the third elder's suspicion. In his opinion, this was a reasonable thing. He nodded slightly and said with a smile, With your strength, it is indeed impossible to kill the cloud-spot beast and obtain the refining materials. Sigh, you two are too sensible. You are not like the little fellows in the other branches, who are begging their elders to help them gather materials. Unfortunately, without the corresponding materials, I cannot refine treasures for you. The two of you will have to be extra careful during the Holy Fire Festival. Xiao Chen was startled and could not help but reveal the truth. However, Xiao Ling glared at him again and quickly changed the topic. She asked the third elder, Third Grandpa Ling came to visit you today to ask about something. When we came back earlier, we saw two unfamiliar men, one old and one young, enter our Xiao clan. The middle-aged man was wearing a purple robe and the young man was wearing a white robe. They were very handsome. Third Grandpa, who are they? Why have Ling never seen them before? The third elder's old face immediately revealed a gratified and proud expression. He nodded and said, The two people you are talking about, I just met them. They are now living in Tingfeng Garden. The man in the purple robe is your uncle, your father's cousin. You should have heard of his name. He is Xiao Han, the pride of our third branch and the entire Xiao clan. Xiao Han? Xiao Chen's eyes widened, revealing a gaze full of worship and excitement. He said with a trembling voice, The divine general of the eastern forest, Uncle Xiao Han, who guards the eastern sea border. He actually came back? That's great. I have heard of his legend since I was young and have always admired him. I hope that when I grow up, I can bring glory to my ancestors and guard the continent. Xiao Ling was also very excited and pleasantly surprised. She could not help but ask, Oh my God! He is actually Uncle Xiao Han. I did not expect to see the divine general of the eastern forest. That's right, third grandpa. Where is the young man beside Uncle Xiao Han? Who is he? The third elder smiled and nodded. That is Xiao Han's nephew, Tianxing. He is a genius 10 times more outstanding than Xiao Han. It's really him. Xiao Ling was so excited that her eyes sparkled. She couldn't help but clench her little fists and think to herself with joy, That's great. He's in Tingfeng Garden, and I'll be able to see him soon. Humph, Xiao Tianxing, I will definitely find you and get to know you again. The third elder saw their reactions and guessed their thoughts. He reminded them in a serious tone, Xiao Han is returning to the Xiao clan this time to bring the top 2 disciples with him. The disciples who obtained the top 2 positions would serve under Xiao Han and receive his promotion and care. The two of you have to work harder and strive to be in the top 2 to gain Xiao Han's favor. However, they had just returned and needed a good rest. If you want to see him, you'll have to wait until tomorrow. Xiao Linger hurriedly nodded. Yes, third grandpa, don't worry. We'll surely not be rash and abrupt. Xiao Chen suppressed the excitement in his heart and nodded repeatedly. After that, the two of them bowed to the third elder and left the hall. After walking out of Tingfeng Garden, the two of them chatted as they walked. Xiao Chen couldn't help but ask, Sister Ling, why didn't you let me tell the third elder the truth just now? Xiao Ling glared at him and said unhappily, Are you stupid? Didn't you see that third grandpa's injuries have worsened and his complexion is even worse? Third grandpa refined the 6 harmonies magic treasure for the clan, and also refined magic treasures for Xiao Xue and the rest. His vitality has been greatly damaged and his internal injuries have flared up. How can we cause trouble for third grandpa and let him refine magic treasures and worsen his injuries? Xiao Qin frowned and said with a heart full of worry, I also understand this logic. However, Xiao Xue and Xiao Chong both have magic treasures and we don't. When the time comes, we'll be at a disadvantage in the examination. If we can't obtain the top 2 positions, we'll lose the great opportunity to follow Uncle Xiao Han. Xiao Ling thought for a while and her quick-witted eyes turned. She immediately had an idea. Xiao Qin, how about this? Tomorrow, We'll go pay a visit to Uncle Xiao Han and sound him out. If there's a chance, we'll hint to Uncle Xiao Han and let him set the rules of the examination. We're not allowed to borrow external forces or use magic treasures. Xiao Chen's eyes immediately lit up and he nodded repeatedly. Hey, this idea is not bad. This is very fair to everyone. Just as he finished speaking, a disdainful sneer came from the front. Hee. Only the weak have extravagant hopes for fairness. Suddenly hearing these words, Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling stopped in their tracks and raised their heads to look forward. They saw that on the blue stone road in front of them, there were 3 young men and women walking towards them. The young woman walking in the middle wore a blue dress and held a silver sword in her left hand. This woman was tall and had a cold temperament. However, her face was slightly ordinary and could only be considered average. She was the genius of the 5th branch, Xiao Xue. Following on her left and right were 2 handsome young men. The young man on the left wore a snow-white robe. His face was sickly pale and his eyes were gloomy and cold. He was the genius of the 2nd branch, Xiao Chong. He was also the one who sneered earlier. The young man on the right wore a fiery red robe. He was the genius of the 4th branch, Xiao Ku. He was tall and sturdy with a dignified appearance. His entire body emitted a valiant and wild aura. These 3 young men and women, in addition to Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were the most outstanding geniuses of the Xiao clan's younger generation. Unfortunately, these 5 geniuses were divided into 2 factions. They were hostile and opposed to each other. They had to compete in everything. Xiao Chong's words made Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling furious. Their eyes turned cold. Xiao Chen shouted in a deep voice, "Xiao Chong, you dare to be arrogant in front of me with your little strength?" Xiao Chong leisurely stroked his collar. The corner of his mouth curled into a sinister sneer. He nodded and said, "That's right. I alone am enough to crush you. You're too arrogant. I must teach you a lesson today." Xiao Chen could not hold back his anger. He clenched his fist in anger and was about to attack. However, a light flashed in Xiao Chong's palm, and a crescent-shaped silver saber appeared. As Xiao Chong poured quintessence into the saber immediately expanded by 1,000 times. It turned into a huge saber that was 10 meters long and gave off a dazzling silver light. A strong wind swept up on the blue stone path. The berserk saber chi was pointed at Xiao Chen. "Xiao Chen, you can't even take one saber strike from me. Do you believe me?" Xiao Chen was immediately driven mad. However, due to the might of the silver saber, he did not dare to attack Xiao Chong. Xiao Ling cursed angrily, "Xiao Chong, you shameless despicable person. Aren't you just relying on the might of your magic treasure?" Chapter 1165. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling's true strength was definitely not weaker than Xiao Chong's. In fact, they were even slightly stronger. However, a soul-ranked enchanted treasure could increase Xiao Chong's combat prowess by 2 to 3 times, completely suppressing the 2 of them. This was what they were most dissatisfied with and angered them the most. Xiao Chong controlled the 10-meter-long silver breaking moon saber to hover above Xiao Chen's head, showing off his might. Xiao Chong revealed a cold smile and said proudly, "In our Xiao clan, only the old ancestor and the 3rd elder can refine soul-ranked enchanted treasures. In the entire Xiao clan, there are less than 50 soul-ranked enchanted treasures. However, the 3rd elder refined enchanted treasures for the 3 of us. What does this mean? It means that the 3 of us are outstanding enough to have soul-ranked enchanted treasures. As for the 2 of you, you can't even obtain the materials to refine enchanted treasures. You are even less qualified to get the 3rd elder to refine one for you." Xiao Chen could not stand Xiao Chong's proud appearance. He was so angry that he laughed. "Xiao Chong, can you be any more shameless? Didn't you get the materials to refine enchanted treasures with the help of your elders? With your strength and courage, you don't even have the courage to step into the forbidden land of the swamp." The red-robed Xiao Ku immediately grinned coldly. "Ha! Our parents and elders were able to obtain the materials to refine enchanted treasures because they were strong enough. This is also our capital. Who asked your parents and elders to be trash? They can't even obtain soul-ranked enchanted treasures. How can you blame us for this?" Ha! After Xiao Ku finished speaking, he exchanged glances with Xiao Chong and laughed proudly. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were extremely enraged. Their bodies shone with quintessence as they roared and attacked. "Xiao Ku, You dare to insult my parents. You are seeking death. Xiao Chong, if you are still a man, put down the breaking moon saber and fight fairly. It looked like both sides were circulating their vast quintessence, about to execute their secret techniques to fight on the limestone path. Just at this moment, a dignified and angry shout came from the end of the path not far away. Stop! As that voice rang out, a purple-robed middle-aged man walked out with a white-robed youth. The two walked side by side as if they were taking a stroll in the manor, enjoying the scenery and chatting. The middle-aged man was tall and straight, with a dignified appearance. His expression was cold and solemn, and his eyes were surging with a frightening light. His entire body exuded a powerful aura of a superior. His eyes swept across the 5 young geniuses indifferently as he shouted in a deep voice. As disciples of the same clan, how dare you fight against each other within the clan? What is this? Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, Xiao Chen, and the others immediately stopped and turned to look at the purple-robed man. When Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling clearly saw the face of the purple-robed man, the anger that filled their hearts completely dispersed, and they revealed an expression that was filled with excitement and excitement. The two of them looked at the purple-robed man with shining eyes. They bowed respectfully and called him uncle. Without a doubt, the purple-robed man was Xiao Han. Xiao Chen stared at Xiao Han without blinking. His eyes were filled with worship and reverence. Xiao Ling's gaze instead descended onto Ji Tianxing, who was beside Xiao Han, and she carefully sized him up. Although Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku and Xiao Xue did not recognize Xiao Han, they knew that he was an elder of the Xiao clan. The 3 of them stopped and withdrew their weapons and magic treasures. Xiao Chong glanced at Xiao Han and looked at Xiao Chen with contempt. He shouted in a low voice, Xiao Chen, consider yourself lucky today. With an elder present, this young master will spare you this time. 3 days later, during the Holy Fire Festival's test, I will definitely defeat you in front of everyone and make you roll off the stage like a dog. After he finished speaking, he turned around and left with Xiao Ku and Xiao Xue, swaggering away. From the beginning to the end, they only glanced at Xiao Han and Ji Tianxing. They did not put the 2 of them in their eyes. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were unable to restrain their anger. They were so angry that they gnashed their teeth. However, they could only suppress their anger in their hearts and could not vent it out. When Xiao Han saw that the matter had calmed down, he no longer cared about the youths. He brought Ji Tianxing along the bluestone path and strolled around the manor. As the 2 of them strolled, Xiao Han gave Ji Tianxing an apologetic smile. Tianxing, I've made a fool of myself earlier. Ji Tianxing shook his head and chuckled. It's nothing. It's normal for youths to be competitive. Moreover, the Xiao clan has many branches and the relationships between the younger generations are distant. It's inevitable that there will be some grudges and conflicts. Xiao Han nodded with some regret. That's right. This is the trouble of a big clan. Back then, the young geniuses of my generation were also not convinced of each other's strength and secretly schemed against each other. However, the young geniuses of my generation were more shrewd and would not shed all pretense of cordiality in public like them. Perhaps, the Xiao clan is getting worse with each generation and will gradually decline and wither away? Ji Tianxing only smiled and did not say anything. The 2 of them walked half a circle around the manor. Just as they entered a garden, a guard quickly came over and reported to Xiao Han. Lord Xiao Han, the great elder knows that you have returned and ordered me to send a message for you to meet him. He has something to discuss with you. Xiao Han was stunned for a moment. He turned to Ji Tianxing and said apologetically, Tianxing, I'm sorry. I have to leave. It's fine. Go ahead and do what you need to do. I'll walk around by myself. Ji Tianxing nodded, indicating that he did not need to take it to heart. Xiao Han bade farewell and followed the god to meet the great elder. Ji Tianxing strolled alone in the garden. He walked to the pavilion in the middle of the lake and sat down. He revealed a playful smile and seemed to be talking to himself. Come out. There's no one else here. It was quiet all around. There was not a single person. He raised his eyebrows and stared at the rockery by the lake with playful eyes. He chuckled and said, Miss, do you think that you can hide from the senses of a soul refinement expert? As his voice fell, a graceful figure walked out from behind the rockery. It was a girl around the age of 20, wearing a yellow dress. She had a beautiful face and a cute temperament. It was Xiao Ling. She lowered her head timidly and pouted in a depressed mood. She took small steps towards the pavilion in the middle of the lake. After entering the pavilion, she stood in front of Ji Tianqing and bowed slightly. Ling greets Big Brother Tianqing. Please forgive me, Big Brother Tianqing. Ling follows you without ill intentions. Ling just didn't expect that you were also a disciple of my clan. Ling was excited and wanted to thank you in person. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and looked at her playfully. He thought to himself, it seems that she has already found out about my identity and thinks that I'm Xiao Han's nephew? Xiao Ling was excited and nervous. Her eyes hid worry and anger. Her emotions were very complicated. She lowered her head slightly and held her dress with both hands. She looked like she wanted to say something but stopped. Chapter 1166. Ji Tianqing's attitude had always been casual, neither too close nor too far. He had the aloofness of a peerless genius, but also the dignity of an expert. To Xiao Ling this had a special attraction. She couldn't help but want to get closer to Ji Tianqing and understand him better, especially when Ji Tianqing looked at her. His eyes were as clear as water, without any surprise or lust. This made her admire him even more, but also a little disappointed. After all, she was the publicly acknowledged #1 beauty in the Xiao clan, the most outstanding among the young women. Many young men in the Xiao clan admired her very much. Some were secretly in love with her, and some were openly pursuing and pestering her. Ji Tianqing saw that Xiao Ling was a little dazed, as if she was thinking about something. He asked, "Why did you follow me here?" Xiao Ling came back to her senses and answered subconsciously, "Of course, I want to thank you in person." Before she could finish, Ji Tianqing raised his hand and interrupted her. He asked again, "Other than that?" Xiao Ling was stunned for a moment, and her heartbeat inexplicably accelerated. She secretly looked at Ji Tianqing and asked tentatively, "Big Brother Tianqing, can I sit down and chat with you?" Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and nodded. "Feel free." Xiao Ling was a little excited, and she sat down beside him with a face full of smiles. Ji Tianqing's easygoing and approachable made her feel relaxed and no longer nervous. She turned her head to look at Ji Tianqing and asked, "Big Brother Tianqing, I heard that you are Uncle Xiao Han's nephew, but I have never seen you before. You didn't grow up in the Xiao clan, right?" "Of course not." Xiao Ling's eyes flickered with quick-wittedness. She asked, "Then can you tell me about the outside world? What's it like?" The outside world. Ji Tianqing paused for a moment and smiled. "It's very exciting and very complicated." After saying that, he looked at Xiao Ling. "You seem to yearn for the outside world?" "Of course." Xiao Ling nodded without hesitation and said, "It is not just me. Most of the Xiao clan disciples are not willing to stay here. They all want to go out and adventure. Men wanted to roam the world and establish their careers. They wanted to become a great hero like Uncle Xiao Han, a peerless expert. As for me, I just want to see the scenery outside, make more friends, and find the perfect lover in my heart." Ji Tianqing was stunned for a moment. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "Miss Ling it's not good for you to be so straightforward, right? Girls should be more reserved." Xiao Ling was also slightly embarrassed as she asked with a slightly red face, "Big Brother Tianqing, do you think that I'm a little bold and unrestrained?" "That's not it," Ji Tianqing shook his head and said calmly. "You're just a simple and straightforward person." Xiao Linger nodded in agreement and said, "Third Grandpa often says this as well. He even says that if I go outside, I'll surely suffer a loss. Unfortunately, I may not have the chance to see the outside world. My wish of more than 10 years is about to be shattered." Her tone was somewhat gloomy and sad. Her tone was somewhat helpless and angry. Ji Tianqing tilted his head and looked at her. "What's wrong? Are you worried that you won't be able to pass the exam and get into the top 2? So you also know about the Holy Fire Festival's exam?" Xiao Ling blinked her big eyes and said with a somewhat resentful tone, "Big Brother Tianqing, actually, if everyone takes the exam fairly, I still have the confidence to get into the top 2. After all, my talent and strength can be ranked in the top 3 among the younger generation. However, Xiao Chong and Xiao Shui, those 3 fellows just now, they actually used magical artifacts to cheat." Speaking up to here, her tone was full of helplessness as she muttered, "You also know that a low-grade soul-level magical artifact is several times stronger than a magical artifact. Xiao Chen and I are only slightly stronger than Xiao Chong and the others. How could we possibly block the power of a magical artifact? Ji Tianxing immediately understood her worry and anger. He asked despite knowing the answer, "Didn't you guys get the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-spotted beast? Why didn't you let Third Elder refine a magical artifact for you?" Xiao Ling shook her head and said with a heart full of worry, "Third grandfather's internal injuries have relapsed. His condition is very bad. He is already in so much pain. How could we cause him more trouble?" Ji Tianxing asked back, "So, you would rather accept the result of failing the exam than aggravate Third Elder's injuries?" Xiao Ling nodded and said, "Xiao Chong and Xiao Xue aren't from the third branch. Of course, they wouldn't care about third grandfather's condition. However, we can't do that." Hearing her say this, Ji Tianxing couldn't help but look at her again. A hint of admiration flashed through his eyes. Although this matter had nothing to do with him, the kindness and care of human nature was always worthy of praise and admiration. At this moment, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from the cobblestone path beside the lake. Two handsome young men walked out side by side. As they walked, they whispered to each other. One of them was wearing a white robe, and the other was wearing a red robe. They were Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku. When Ji Tianxing raised his head and looked at them, they also stopped and saw Ji Tianxing and Xiao Ling in the pavilion. Xiao Chong was startled. His pale face immediately revealed a disdainful sneer. He said with a disdainful tone, "Oh my, everyone thought that the number one beauty Xiao Ling was pure as ice and pure as jade. I didn't expect that Xiao Ling also had feelings for love. She met her lover in broad daylight and hid here to whisper sweet nothings. TSK TSK TSK. Xiao Chong's eyes were very sinister, and his tone was also very strange. It was unbearable. Xiao Ke glanced at Ji Tianxing and curled his lips. Xiao Ling there are so many young talents in the Xiao clan's main branch. For example, Xiao Chong and I, but you didn't choose any of them. In the end, you chose a branch disciple from outside. Aren't you inserting a flower into cow dung?" After saying that, he even cast a contemptuous look at Ji Tianxing and shouted coldly, "Brat, this is the Xiao clan. It's already an honor for you, a branch disciple, to be able to return here. You better behave yourself and don't have any improper thoughts. Otherwise, I'll throw you out." How could Xiao Ling tolerate the two of them slandering her like this? She stood up and scolded with a frosty face. "Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, you two bastards, don't slander me and sully my innocence." Xiao Chong curled his lips and said with a strange tone, "Little sister Ling, don't exaggerate. I didn't even touch the corner of your clothes. How can I sully your innocence? Could it be that I use my eyes?" "You, Xiao Chong, you're courting death." Xiao Ling was so furious that she almost went berserk. Dazzling true essence surged all over her body, and she was about to make a move immediately. As a pure girl, how could she be humiliated and molested in front of her like this? Chapter 1167. A bright light flashed in Xiao Ling palm, and a dark golden sword appeared. She held the scabbard in her left hand and the sword hilt in her right hand. She was about to draw the sword in a fit of anger. At this moment, a warm and powerful palm pressed on the sword hilt and pushed the sword back into the scabbard. Xiao Ling turned her head and saw Ji Tianxing looking at her calmly. His eyes were as calm as water. She didn't know why, but when she saw Ji Tianxing's deep eyes, the anger and murderous intent in her heart instantly dissipated, and she calmed down. Ji Tianxing was still sitting on the stone bench in the pavilion. He glanced at Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku indifferently and asked Xiao Ling, if I didn't guess wrongly, these two clowns pursued you before, but you rejected them, right?" Xiao Ling was startled for a moment. She didn't understand what he meant, so she answered truthfully, "That's right. I would rather die than agree to such disgusting and despicable people like them." Ji Tianxing revealed an expression of deep understanding. He nodded and said, "That's indeed the case. Such small flies don't even have the qualifications to carry your shoes." Xiao Ling saw his serious face and couldn't help but blink her big clear eyes. Her heartbeat suddenly sped up, and she felt an inexplicable happiness and joy. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were so angry that their noses were crooked. They were so humiliated that their faces and ears turned red. Both of them flew into a rage. They glared fiercely at Ji Tianxing and scolded, "Brat, who are you? How dare you insult this young master? Wild brat from the outside, how dare you be so presumptuous in our Xiao clan? You're dead meat. No matter how the two of them scolded, Ji Tianqing's expression remained calm. His eyes were indifferent, as if he was looking at two ants. After the two of them scolded for a while and stopped to catch their breath, he said in a pitiful tone, "Two ant-like trash. You've become so deranged after being poked in your sore spot. How sad." Xiao Chong's face turned red with anger. He pointed at Ji Tianqing and shouted, "Brat, don't talk nonsense with this young master. If you have the guts, come to the arena with this young master. Let's fight in front of everyone. You're pissing me off. I'm going to break all 5 of your legs and make sure you don't have any descendants." Xueqi also hooked his finger at him and said provocatively, "Kid, if you're still a man, then fight with me." Xiao Ling couldn't bear to see the two of them being so arrogant. She couldn't bear to see the two of them profaning the Prince Charming in her heart. Instantly, killing intent surged violently from her entire body. Ji Tianqing was still as calm as ever, without the slightest hint of anger. Xiao Ling saw his reaction and asked doubtfully, "Big brother Tianqing, those two bastards provoked you like this. Could it be that you're not angry?" Ji Tianqing glanced at Xiao Chong and Xueqi with disdain. He said indifferently, "There are too many people who want to challenge me. If there aren't 100,000, there are at least 80,000. If I paid attention to every single one of them, wouldn't I be unable to do anything? Moreover, these two reptiles are not qualified for me to make a move. It's their honor for me to look at them." Ji Tianqing's expression was very serious. His tone was very certain and confident. It was as if he was stating a fact, a truth. Xiao Chong and Xueqi were so angry that they almost vomited blood. They were so angry that they almost went berserk. Xiao Ling felt that it made sense. She nodded in agreement and said, "I see. Looks like Big Brother Tianqing usually encounters this kind of trouble, right?" "Yes." Ji Tianqing nodded calmly and said, "After all, the entire continent knows of my reputation and deeds. Who knows how many young geniuses want to challenge me and make a name for themselves in one battle." Xiao Ling's eyes were filled with longing. She clenched her pink little fists excitedly. She couldn't imagine how awe-inspiring it would be for someone as famous as Ji Tianqing to be the center of attention wherever he went. This also made her look forward to the outside world even more. Xiao Chong and Xueqi were so angry that they laughed. Their faces were distorted. "Ha ha ha. I've lived for so long, but this is the first time I've seen such a shameless person. Kid, your ability to boast and be shameless is indeed the best in the world. It's really unprecedented and will never be surpassed." Xiao Ling, so this is the person you've chosen. I'm dying of laughter. The two of you will definitely become the shame of the Xiao clan. Just as the two of them were cursing angrily, a purple figure walked over from the small path. He arrived at the lakeside with one step. The newcomer was dressed in a purple robe. His figure was tall and straight, and his entire body emitted the aura of a superior, powerful and noble. He was Xiao Han. Of course, when he rushed over, he just happened to hear Xiao Chong and Xueqi's angry curses. "Shut up!" Xiao Han stopped and stared at the two of them coldly. He shouted in a dignified tone. Xiao Chong and Xueqi immediately turned around and looked at Xiao Han with unfriendly eyes. Because the other party was an elder and had decent strength, the two of them didn't say anything. However, the sneer and ridicule in their eyes couldn't be concealed. Xiao Han didn't say anything unnecessary. He pointed at Ji Tianqing in the pavilion and shouted angrily at the two of them, "Apologize to Tianqing." "What?" The two of them were stunned. They sneered and questioned Xiao Han with disdain. "Who are you? We're not from the third branch. Who are you to tell us what to do? Why should we apologize to him? That kid insulted us. We're waiting for him to apologize to us." Xiao Han furrowed his brows as a cold light flashed in his eyes. In the next instant, he raised his right hand, and his sleeves fluttered as he slapped out. Slap! The invisible slap landed on Xiao Chong and Xueqi's cheeks from 10 steps away. It made a crisp sound. Xiao Chong and Xueqi were both at Sky Origin Stage Level 5. However, they couldn't see how Xiao Han attacked. The left side of their faces swelled up like a pig's head. It was red and filled with blood. The two of them were stunned. They stared at Xiao Han in disbelief and shouted angrily, How dare you hit me? You're from the third branch. How dare you punish us? I'll go to the law hall and ask for an explanation. My father is Xiao Zhan from the second branch. How dare you hit me? My father will never forgive you. The two of them didn't dare to attack Xiao Han. They covered their swollen cheeks and stared at Xiao Han fiercely. Xiao Han didn't say anything. He raised his right hand again and slapped them. Slap. This time, the two of them were prepared. They tried their best to back off, but they were still slapped on the right side of their faces. The right side of their faces swelled up like a pig's head. It was covered with dark red blood. The two of them were dizzy from the slap. They staggered and fell to the ground. They looked extremely embarrassed. The two of them were scared. They hurriedly got up from the ground and helped each other to leave the lake. Before they ran out of the garden, the two of them didn't forget to threaten Xiao Han. Just you wait. We'll remember this. The law elder will come to you soon. Just you wait. Xiao Han coldly shouted. Go and find the law elder. Also, tell Xiao Zhan to come find me and ask for punishment. Chapter 1168. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were stunned. Even when they heard Xiao Han's name, they didn't take it to heart. The two of them endured the pain and humiliation as they stumbled out of the garden and left Tingfeng Garden. Xiao Han flicked his sleeves and gradually restrained his anger. He walked into the pavilion in the middle of the lake. Xiao Ling saw him and quickly stood up. She bowed obediently and said, Ling greets uncle. Xiao Han didn't take it to heart. He just nodded and walked to Ji Tianxing. He said apologetically, Tianxing, the first elder, and I were discussing the Holy Fire Festival and delayed some time. I didn't expect that not long after I left, those two little bastards dared to humiliate you. I'm really sorry. Obviously, Xiao Han was worried that Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku would anger Ji Tianxing and cause him to harbor resentment. If he caused trouble in the Xiao clan, the entire Xiao clan wouldn't have peace. The Duanmu clan and Murong clan were examples. Xiao Han was very clear about Ji Tianxing's terrifying power. Fortunately, Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said calmly, You don't have to take it to heart. Among the younger generation, the one who can humiliate me hasn't been born yet. Xiao Han was stunned for a moment. He smiled and nodded. That's right. In this world, who has the right to humiliate you? Blame those two little bastards for being blind. They're really frogs at the bottom of a well. They actually dared to be so presumptuous. Tianxing, this matter is also because you're magnanimous and didn't lower yourself to their level. Xiao Ling stood at the side and stared at Xiao Han and Ji Tianxing with her big clear eyes. A hint of doubt flashed in her eyes. She was very smart. Of course, she could see that Xiao Han's attitude toward Ji Tianxing was very respectful. It didn't seem like a senior to a nephew. It was more like a friend of the same generation. This made her very confused. She couldn't understand the reason. Xiao Han secretly heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Ji Tianxing didn't take it to heart. He sat down beside Ji Tianxing and asked doubtfully, Tianxing, who is this lady? Why are you here? Ji Tianxing chuckled. Logically speaking, this lady is your niece. You should be more familiar with her than me, right? I was bored wandering around Tingfeng Garden alone, so I decided to chat with her when I saw her here. Xiao Han said awkwardly, I haven't been back for more than 20 years. How would I know these juniors? Xiao Ling was extremely quick-witted. She hurriedly bowed and explained, Uncle Xiao Han, I'm called Xiao Ling. My father is your cousin, called Xiao Jianlong. You should remember, right? Only then did Xiao Han come to a realization. Looking at Xiao Ling in disbelief, he said with a nod, So, it's Yilong's daughter. The third elder's body is already so bad, and he definitely can't help you refine Dharma treasures. How about this? I'll help you refine Dharma treasures. No, it's the Holy Fire Festival 3 days later. I can't make it in time even if I rush now. Ah! Xiao Ling immediately revealed a face full of disappointment and said with tears in her eyes, Uncle, you're the Donglin Divine General. Could it be that even you can't help us? Sigh. Xiao Han sighed deeply and was somewhat helpless. Ji Tianxing timely interrupted and reminded, Lord Divine General, you have so many soul tools and Dharma treasures. You can temporarily lend 2 to them. That won't do. Xiao Han and Xiao Ling rejected in unison. Xiao Ling pouted and said, If we do that, it's also cheating. The nature is even worse than Xiao Chong and Xiao Xue. Xiao Han also nodded and said, yes, the assessment rules are that we can't rely on external forces, including other people's Dharma treasures and spirit pets. Ji Tianxing nodded slightly, indicating that he understood. He suddenly thought of something and raised his eyebrows and asked, Lord Divine General, since the assessment rules can't be changed, then if Miss Ling wants to win, she must use Dharma treasures. Moreover, this Dharma treasure can only come from the third elder. Only this way can it be considered fair and not cause controversy, right? Xiao Han nodded and said, that's right, exactly so. However, you've also seen the third elder's body condition. Ji Tianxing revealed an unfathomable smile and said with a playful tone, if the third elder's injuries suddenly recover and he can recover his vitality tonight, then can he refine 2 Dharma treasures before the Holy Fire Festival? Xiao Han said with a certain tone, this isn't a problem. The third elder has studied refining for his entire life. It's not difficult to refine 2 low-grade soul-rank Dharma treasures within 3 days. However, even I'm helpless with the third elder's injuries. How can he suddenly recover? Chapter 1169. Ji Tianxing looked at Xiao Han and revealed a confident smile. Miracle? I'm the best at creating miracles. Xiao Han was stunned for a moment and looked at him in disbelief. Tianxing, can you cure third elder's injury? Xiao Ling was also shocked and looked at him expectantly. Ji Tianxing nodded and asked with a smile, General, have you heard of Miracle Dr. Bailey? Xiao Han didn't know the inside story and answered honestly, of course I have. Miracle Dr. Bailey is a famous miracle doctor in the continent. He has miraculous skills and can bring the dead back to life. Ji Tianxing smiled and said, there's something you might not know. I'm Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple. Xiao Ling suddenly exclaimed and her clear eyes were filled with joy. That's great. Brother Tianxing is Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple. He can definitely cure third grandfather. Xiao Han also came back to his senses and revealed a gratified expression. He smiled and said, Tianxing, if you can cure third elder, I and the disciples of the third branch will remember this kindness. Thank you so much. Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said, it's too early to talk about gratitude. Let's go take a look at third elder's injury first. After that, the 3 of them left the garden and returned to Ting Feng Garden. Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han went to see third elder to check on his injury. Xiao Ling was a junior and couldn't help much. She could only wait in the front yard and patiently wait for the results. Third elder knew Ji Tianxing's true identity and heard that he was Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple. Naturally, he trusted him. In the secret cultivation room, he calmly accepted Ji Tianxing's examination. Moreover, he told Ji Tianxing the reason and process of his hidden injury in detail. 100 years ago, he was exploring the ancient ruins in the depths of the Great Swamp and encountered a few life and death crises. There were powerful arrays and traps in the ancient ruins. He accidentally triggered them and was severely injured and almost lost his life. In addition, he also encountered a powerful and special demonic beast. He was beaten to death and barely escaped. That demonic beast contained a strong poison that corroded his internal organs and meridians, almost turning him into a pool of blood. Ever since he escaped that disaster, he had been quietly recuperating for the past few decades to slowly alleviate his injury. However, the injury that year affected his internal organs and soul and was basically difficult to heal. Usually, he had to use more than half of his power to suppress his injury. In the past year, he had consumed too much of his energy and his old qi was damaged. Of course, his old injury. Moreover, the injury had relapsed, and the situation had become very bad. The third elder estimated that with the condition of his body, he would not live for more than 3 years. Hearing this, Xiao Han was immediately filled with worry. He asked Ji Tianxing, Tianxing, are you confident in curing third elder? Ji Tianxing thought about it seriously, then nodded and said, I have 90% confidence. That's great. Xiao Han secretly clenched his fist and excitedly praised. The third elder also felt that it was inconceivable. His old face was flushed with excitement. Tianxing, can I really be saved? Ji Tianxing nodded and smiled. Third elder, you don't have to worry. Although your injury is troublesome, it is not an incurable disease. Please lie on the cold ice jade bed and enter a state of deep sleep. I have to start treating your injury as soon as possible. The third elder saw the hope of life. Of course, he was full of excitement and expectation. He lay on the cold ice jade bed according to his instructions. Xiao Han rubbed his hands excitedly and quickly asked, Tianxing, do you need my help? Ji Tianxing shook his head and said, No need. You can wait outside the secret room. Don't let anyone disturb me. Okay, don't worry. Xiao Han nodded and quickly left the secret room to guard outside the door. In the dark secret room, only Ji Tianxing and the third elder were left. The third elder had entered a state of deep sleep and isolated all his senses. This way, he wouldn't feel any pain when Ji Tianxing treated his injury. Ji Tianxing first used the secret technique of the Wood Emperor's umbrella to treat the third elder's injury. Then, he transferred boundless green wood magic power to the third elder and fed him a few soul-grade elixirs. After the third elder's injury was mostly healed, he used the heaven-mending pearl to remove the remaining poison in the third elder's body and repair his internal organs and soul. This process was very slow and would take a long time. But he had enough patience to treat the third elder's injury bit by bit. Unknowingly, 4 hours had passed and night had fallen. In the manor of the Shao clan's second branch, the lights were brightly lit. In an antique study, a middle-aged man in a purple robe was sitting. This man was tall and sturdy and had a dignified appearance. He had a mustache and exuded the aura of an expert. He was the son of the second branch's elder, Xiao Zhan, the next elder's successor. He was engrossed in reading a book when the study's door was opened. A young man with swollen cheeks like a pig's head walked into the study with weak steps. His entire body was wrapped in anger and resentment. Father, you must avenge me. The young man was Xiao Chong. He walked quickly to Xiao Zhan and shouted angrily. His tone and eyes were filled with anger and resentment. Xiao Zhan put down the book in his hand and turned to look at Xiao Chong. He frowned when he saw Xiao Chong's miserable appearance. Chong, what happened to you? Who beat you up like this? Xiao Chong's eyes surged with cold light. He gritted his teeth and cursed. It's the bastard from the third branch. He sided with Xiao Linger and Xiao Linger's lover and beat me and Xiao Ku. Bastard! Xiao Zhan slammed the table in anger and shouted angrily. The third branch is too presumptuous. How dare they beat up my son? Chong! Do you know that person's name? Tell me, I won't let him off. Xiao Chong thought for a moment and quickly replied. That guy is an elder from the third branch. I think he's called Xiao Han? What did you say? Xiao Zhan's eyes widened. He asked in a panicked tone, You said the person who beat you is called Xiao Han? That's right. It's that bastard. Xiao Chong didn't notice the change in his father's expression. He still cursed angrily. That bastard is too arrogant. He beat us up in front of Xiao Linger and her lover and even clamored for us to kneel down and apologize. He even said that he wants you to find him and apologize. This guy is really crazy. Who does he think he is? Xiao Zhan's expression changed drastically. He shouted in a deep voice. Shut up! You bastard, are you crazy? Xiao Chong raised his head in confusion and asked, Father, what's wrong with you? Did you take the wrong medicine? That bastard beat me up and humiliated you. Why are you scolding me? Xiao Zhan furiously raised his right hand and slapped Xiao Chong's face with a paw sound. Chapter 1170. Xiao Chong was slapped in the face and fell to the ground. His face was already swollen like a pig's head, and after being slapped by Xiao Zhan, it split open and started bleeding. He fell to the ground and covered his bleeding face with his hands, looking at Xiao Zhan in disbelief. You hit me. That bastard from the third branch hit me, and not only did you not avenge me, you hit me. You don't deserve to be my father. Xiao Chong was trembling with anger. He stared at Xiao Zhan with cold eyes and roared in a low voice. Xiao Zhan was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He stood up with a bang, and his whole body was filled with rage. He scolded in a low voice. Bastard, are you still so stubborn? Wake up for me and think carefully about the name, Xiao Han. What do I have to think about? Xiao Chong stared back at him and roared even more furiously. Isn't he just a bastard from the third branch? Isn't he just living for a few more decades? You always brag about how powerful you are, but now that your son is being bullied, You don't even dare to fart. You only dare to hit me. I'm going to tell my mother, and I'm going to the law hall to ask the law elder to judge for me." As he spoke, Xiaocheng got up from the ground and was about to rush out of the study. "Get back here." Xiao Zhan was so angry that his face turned purple. He waved his sleeves and pulled Xiaocheng back. He grabbed Xiaocheng's collar and shouted angrily, "Xiaocheng, are you trying to get us killed? Calm down and think about who Xiao Han is. He's the pride of the Xiao clan, the pillar of the Xiao clan. Is he someone you and I can offend?" The agitated Xiaocheng suddenly thought of something when he heard Xiao Zhan's reminder. "Xiao Han. Xiao Han. Is he that Dong Lin divine general?" Xiao Zhan shouted in a cold voice. "Nonsense! Who else could it be?" "It's him?" Xiaocheng was dumbfounded. He stood there with his mouth agape, and the anger in his heart disappeared. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head. He felt cold from head to toe, and even his back was cold. Xiao Han was the pride of the Xiao clan. He was also a peerless expert that was worshipped by the younger generation. Most importantly, the top 2 scorers of the Holy Fire Festival would be brought out of the Xiao clan by Xiao Han to receive care and training. However, he had already made a mistake and had been slapped twice by Xiao Han. However, he still clamored at Xiao Han and refused to let him off. He even wanted to look for the law elder to reason things out. After such a thing had happened, what was Xiao Han's impression of him? Would he still support and nurture him? Thinking of this, Xiaocheng suddenly collapsed on the chair and murmured in a daze, "This is impossible. How was this possible? How could there be such a coincidence? Why? He had not returned to the Xiao clan for decades. Why did he return today?" He didn't know Xiao Linger at all, so why would he protect Xiao Linger? "No. I can't accept this." Xiao Zhan also gradually calmed down. With a grave expression he said, "Cheng, tell me everything that happened. Don't leave out anything." Xiaocheng was filled with fear. Of course, he did not dare to hide the truth, nor did he dare to exaggerate. He could only tell the truth. After he finished telling the whole story, Xiao Zhan heaved a sigh of relief. He nodded and said, "Although you and Xiao Ku are at fault, there is still room for redemption. This is a grudge between you, Xiao Ku, Xiao Linger, and Xiao Tianqing. It is a matter of the younger generation. Fortunately, you did not directly clash with Xiao Han. Now, follow me to Tingfeng Garden and apologize to Xiao Han in person." Xiaocheng was stunned. He said in disbelief, "Father, are we really going to swallow this and apologize to Xiao Han? There are so many people in the clan watching. If we go and apologize, this matter will spread throughout the Xiao clan tomorrow. At that time, we will be the laughingstock of the entire clan. We will be ridiculed for life." Xiao Zhan glared at him angrily and scolded, "Bastard! Until now, do you still not understand the importance of this matter? Compared to the status and resources we already have, what is this little bit of face? Besides, how could it be considered shameful to offer a humble apology to Divine General Dong Lin? Not only us, who in the 9th branch can afford to offend him?" Xiaocheng was silent. He was still hesitating. Xiao Zhan did not allow him to think too much. He grabbed his neck and dragged him out of the study, rushing to Tingfeng Garden. Tingfeng Garden was brightly lit. The night was quiet. Xiao Han was standing in a dark stone passage. Behind him was the door to the secret chamber. He had been waiting outside the secret chamber for a few hours. He paced back and forth, praying silently in his heart, "Tianqing, you must succeed. Third uncle's health is deteriorating. The 3rd branch's position is in danger. If you can cure third uncle's injury, then you can let the 3rd branch continue to exist, and you can also fulfill my wish." At this moment, a god hurried over and reported respectfully, "Divine General, there is someone in the main hall who wishes to see you." Xiao Han raised his eyebrows and asked, "Who wants to see me in the middle of the night?" The guard replied truthfully, "It is Xiao Zhan from the 2nd branch. He brought his son Xiaocheng. They said they are here to apologize to you. The father and son are both shirtless and carrying thorns on their backs. They are kneeling in the main hall." Xiao Han frowned and thought for a moment. "Ignore them. Let them kneel for a while." He was only worried about the 3rd elder's injury. He could not be bothered with the father and son. The god hurriedly turned and left, not daring to disturb him. Very quickly, another 2 hours had passed. There was still no movement in the secret chamber. Xiao Han was still pacing back and forth, anxiously waiting. At this time, the god returned and reported to Xiao Han again. Reporting to Divine General, there are 2 more people here to see you. Xiao Zhan frowned unhappily and asked, "Who is it this time?" The guard replied, "It is Xueqi and his son. They are also shirtless and carrying thorns on their backs. They are kneeling in the main hall and asking for forgiveness." Xiao Han frowned and sneered disdainfully. "These guys are quite sensible. They really don't care about their reputation and come here to apologize. Since that is the case, I will teach them an unforgettable lesson." After that, he instructed the guard, "Go and tell them to kneel in the main hall until dawn. They are not allowed to leave. Tell them to take care of their own children. Don't be a tyrant in the Xiao clan. Otherwise, sooner or later, they will be in big trouble." The guard acknowledged the order and hurriedly left. Xiao Han did not take this matter to heart. He continued to pace outside the secret chamber, paying attention to the movements in the secret chamber. He silently calculated in his heart. Ji Tianxing had said that he could cure the third elder's injury before dawn. It was already dawn. In another 4 hours, the sun would rise. Chapter 1171. The night was dark and the cold wind was blowing. The main hall of the Tingfeng garden was quiet. The gemstone lamp on the wall was shining with a dim yellow light. There were 4 guards outside the door. There were no guards inside the main hall, but there were 4 men kneeling in the middle of the hall. The 4 of them were bare-chested. Their hair was loose behind their backs and there were several thorny vines on their backs. They were led by 2 middle-aged men. They were both in the 7th or 8th level of Sky Origin stage. They looked dignified and extraordinary. They were the fathers of Xiao Zhan and Xueqi. The other 2 young men had swollen cheeks like balloons. They looked embarrassed and funny. Without a doubt, they were Xiao Chong and Xueqi. Xiao Zhan and Xueqi's fathers were kneeling in front. Xiao Chong and Xueqi were kneeling behind their fathers. The 4 of them were kneeling without moving. They lowered their heads and looked like they were waiting to be punished. The cold night wind blew into the hall, messing up the 4 people's hair. The cold air assaulted their bodies, causing them to shiver uncontrollably. However, they did not dare to move. The 4 of them looked terrible. Their emotions were complicated and their eyes kept changing. The reason why they had such a reaction was because a guard had come to convey Xiao Han's message. Damn Xiao Han. He didn't want to see us and made us kneel until dawn. Xiao Zhan whispered and said angrily, "Even if he is the Donglin Divine General, he is still a disciple of the Xiao clan. We can't forget our roots. He can show off outside, but he dares to be so arrogant in the clan. He has gone too far." Xiaoqi's father also agreed. He whispered, "This is just a grudge between the younger generation. Is there a need to make it so serious? Xiao Han is too protective. He humiliated us in order to protect his nephew." Xiao Zhan said with a gloomy expression, "I originally thought that Xiao Han would forgive us just because we came to ask for forgiveness and put on an act. That would be the end of this matter. I didn't expect Xiao Han to be so heartless. He made us kneel for a whole night. When news of this spreads, everyone in the clan will laugh at us." Xiaoqi's father smiled bitterly and whispered, "But we are already here. We can't just leave, can we? If that's the case, not only will we be humiliated for nothing, this matter won't be resolved, and will offend Xiao Han even more." Xiao Zhan sighed and said, "Yeah, since we've already come to confess, we should finish what we started. I hope we can resolve this matter completely. There are still 4 more hours before daybreak. Let's endure it a little longer." Xiaoqi's father nodded and remained silent. Behind the 2 of them, Xiao Chong and Xueqi were also communicating with their eyes and discussing with each other via voice transmission. "Xueqi, what happened to your face? Why are your injuries more serious than before?" "Don't mention it. I went back and told my father about this and asked him to avenge me. I didn't expect him to slap me twice in anger." "Xiao Chong, aren't you the same?" "Humph. It's all that bastard Xiao Han's fault. He hasn't come back for over 20 years, but he suddenly came back yesterday. He's a senior, a dignified divine general of the East Woods, but he dares to attack a junior. He doesn't care about his status at all. He doesn't have the demeanor of an expert at all. Yes. Xiao Han, this fellow was too overprotective. He was simply unreasonable. Unfortunately, he has a high position and great power. None of us can afford to offend him. I'm so angry. Humph. We can't afford to offend Xiao Han, but can't we afford to offend his nephew? That guy called Tianxing looked like an idiot who had a golden exterior but was actually rotten inside. That guy only knows how to boast and deceive girls with flowery words. He doesn't even have the guts to fight with us. What a piece of trash. What ability does he have? Isn't he just relying on Xiao Han's protection? He actually dares to show off in our clan and seduce Xiao Ling. He deserves to die. Xueqi, we have to find a chance to teach that guy a lesson these few days. We have to make him lose face and run out of the Xiao clan with his tail between his legs. That's right. I also hate him to the core. I can't wait to step on him and crush him to death in front of everyone. But we have to plan carefully. We can't leave any evidence behind. Otherwise, Xiao Han will punish us again. Let's meet up tomorrow and find a few more brothers to discuss this matter together. 2 pairs of father and son and 4 Sky Origin stage experts knelt in the main hall silently, each with their own thoughts. Time passed silently, and 4 hours passed very quickly. The sky outside the main hall finally lit up. The sky was bright. The 2 pairs of father and son had knelt in the main hall for the whole night. Their hearts were filled with anger and resentment. Seeing that the sky was finally bright, the 4 of them were finally free. They all let out a long breath. They quickly got up and walked out of the main hall. They left Tingfeng Garden as if they were escaping. At the same time, Xiao Han, who was pacing back and forth outside the secret chamber, finally stopped. The heavy door of the secret chamber suddenly made a muffled sound and slowly opened. Xiao Han immediately turned around and looked into the secret chamber with bright eyes. His face was full of anticipation. When the door of the secret chamber opened, Ji Tianxing, who was wearing a white robe, walked out tiredly. Xiao Han quickly went up to him and asked expectantly, "Tianxing, how is it?" Ji Tianxing nodded and smiled. Third Elder's injuries are 80% healed. It's not a big problem. He will be completely healed after a few more months of rest. Hearing this, Xiao Han's eyes lit up and he clenched his fists excitedly. That's great. Tianxing, you are indeed the disciple of the godly doctor. You actually cured Third Elder's hidden injuries that have troubled him for more than 100 years. Thank you so much. I, Xiao Han, will remember your kindness in my heart and will never forget it. As he spoke, Xiao Han sincerely bowed to him, expressing his most sincere gratitude. Ji Tianxing helped him up and smiled. You don't have to be so courteous. You helped me enter the Xiao clan and I helped you to cure Third Elder. This is also my way of returning the favor. All right. I'll leave the rest to you. I'm going back to my room to rest. All right. You must have been tired last night. I'll send someone to bring you to rest. Xiao Han quickly called for a guard and brought Ji Tianxing to rest. He then entered the secret chamber to check on Third Elder's condition. He saw that Third Elder was still lying on the ice bed in deep sleep. His entire body was wrapped in a layer of faint green light. His originally aged skin had regained its jade-white luster. His withered and yellow face had also become younger by a few decades. It was as though he had regained his youth. The hidden injuries and deadly poisons hidden in his body had all been removed. Not only that, Third Elder's strength had also recovered to its peak state. His aura was very stable and powerful. He was like a normal second-level soul cultivation realm expert. There was no difference. Before last night, he was still in his twilight years with only 3 years of life left. But now, he was full of energy and vitality. It would not be a problem for him to live another 500 years. This was simply an unbelievable miracle. Chapter 1172. Not long after, the green light on Third Elder's body dissipated. He woke up from his deep slumber and slowly opened his eyes. Xiao Han hurriedly approached him and asked with concern, "Third Uncle, you're finally awake. How do you feel?" It was as if the Third Elder had fallen asleep. He didn't know what had happened. Where's Tianxing? Has the treatment ended? He sat up from the frozen jade bed, moved his limbs, and used his soul to check the condition of his body. With one look, he was instantly stunned. Oh my God! My injuries are all healed? Isn't this too unbelievable? Where's Tianqing? Did he really heal all of my injuries? The third elder let out a cry of surprise as he touched his body to check the condition of his body. He also found that his skin was no longer old, and his appearance had returned to his youth. Even the magic power in his body was surging, and his vitality was boundless. Even if he lived for another 500 years, he would not age like before. Such a huge change made him so excited that he could not control himself. He was so excited that his face was flushed red, and his eyes were covered with a layer of mist. If it did not happen to him, how could he believe in such a miracle? Third elder was so excited that he could not control himself. He jumped down from the frozen jade bed, grabbed Xiao Han's arm with both hands, and said excitedly, "Xiao Han, third uncle has been tormented by hidden injuries for more than 100 years. I always thought that I would reach the end of my life after 300 years. This is too unbelievable. Tianqing actually saved me. I don't have any injuries on my body, as if I've returned to my youth." Seeing third elder so excited, Xiao Han also felt the same. He nodded and said, "Third uncle, Tianqing is not only the #1 genius of our clan, but also the #1 genius of the entire Tianxian continent. He has already created countless miracles, and now he healed your injuries in one night. I'm not afraid of you laughing at me, but no matter what miracles he creates, I won't be surprised. Because I've already been shocked to the point of numbness by the various miracles he has created." The third elder nodded his head repeatedly and exhorted in a solemn tone, "Xiao Han, you are the most outstanding disciple of our Xiao clan in the past 300 years. You are also the pride of our clan. However, it's your fortune to be able to befriend Tianqing. It's also our Xiao clan's fortune. Let me warn you, you must maintain a good relationship with him in the future. No matter what, don't offend him." Xiao Han chuckled and shook his head. "Third uncle, you worry too much. Tianqing is definitely not a fish in a pond. One day, he will transform into a true dragon and soar into the 9 heavens. Why would I offend him for no reason? Moreover, I know Tianqing's character the best. As long as we don't challenge his bottom line, he won't be our enemy." Hearing him say so, third elder was relieved and hurriedly urged, "Xiao Han, quickly bring me to see Tianqing. I must thank him in person." As he spoke, he pulled Xiao Han and was about to leave the secret chamber. Halfway through, he suddenly thought of something. "Oh right. We can't go empty-handed. I have to prepare a generous gift to show my sincerity." Xiao Han hurriedly pulled him and persuaded with a smile, "Third uncle, Tianqing was busy last night and consumed too much of his spiritual power. He is now recuperating and adjusting his breath. Even if you want to thank him in person, you have to do it another day, right?" Third elder was stunned for a moment. He slapped his forehead and said with a wry smile, "Oh, that's true. Look at my memory. I'm so old and muddle-headed that I forgot about it when I was happy. All right, let Tianqing rest for a day. Tomorrow, you accompany me to thank him in person." Xiao Han thought for a moment and said with a smile, "Third uncle, Tianqing told me before that after you wake up, you should refine magic weapons for Ling and Chen first. The Holy Fire Festival is in 2 days. If you delay any longer, I'm afraid it will be too late." This third elder was stunned for a moment and said with some hesitation, "It's not a problem to refine magic weapons for them, but if I want to thank Tianqing in person, won't I have to postpone it for a few days?" Xiao Han nodded and said, "Yes, this matter is not urgent. You can refine magic weapons for the 2 juniors first." "All right, then tell them to bring the materials to see me in the workshop." Third elder also knew the importance of this matter and hurriedly instructed Xiao Han. Xiao Han responded and hurriedly sent someone to inform Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling. Then, he accompanied third elder and rushed to the workshop in the depths of Tingfeng Garden. In a courtyard in the corner of Tingfeng Garden. It was early in the morning. A few young men and women were practicing sword techniques in the courtyard. There were also a few older young men and women sitting cross-legged under the great banyan tree, quietly meditating and practicing. These were the Xiao clan's disciples from the 3rd branch. All of them were outstanding talents with high martial talent. Xiao Ling and Xiao Chen were the leaders of the 3rd branch. They were also the most outstanding geniuses. At this moment, the 2 of them were standing under the roof, observing their younger brothers and sisters practicing sword techniques while conversing softly. Xiao Chen looked at Xiao Ling and asked with a heart full of expectation, Sister Ling did that young master really say that? Of course. Xiao Ling nodded and said with a frown, what do you mean by that young master? His name is Tianqing. He has a name, okay? Tianqing did not put Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku in his eyes at all. I can see that Tianqing looked at them as if he was looking at two ants. I swear on my character that he was not deliberately mystifying them. His contempt came from the bottom of his heart and soul. Only a peerless genius would have such confidence. Confidence and arrogance that comes from the soul. Xiao Chen scratched his head and said with some hesitation, we have all seen Tianqing's strength with our own eyes. He is indeed a transcendent spirit refinement realm expert. Even if you say that he is the #1 genius in the world, I will not deny it. However, Third Grandpa is already injured to such an extent. How can Tianqing cure him? Tianqing is so young. Even if his martial talent is extraordinary, is he proficient in medicine? Third Grandpa's internal injuries have been for more than 100 years. So many elders and experts in the clan could not cure him. How can Tianqing do it? Xiao Ling glared at him unhappily and shouted angrily, Xiao Chen, which side are you on? Don't you want Third Grandpa to get better? Humph. I think you are just jealous of Big Brother Tianqing. You are jealous that he is more handsome, younger, and stronger than you. Xiao Chen's face immediately turned green as he looked at her speechlessly. At this moment, a guard rushed over and reported respectfully, Miss Ling young Master Chen, Lord Divine General summoned you to the forging workshop. Lord Divine General has instructed you to bring the materials for refining weapons, and Third Elder will immediately refine the magic weapons for you. Suddenly hearing this news, Xiao Ling and Xiao Chen were dumbfounded. They were petrified on the spot. After a moment, Xiao Ling was the first to recover. She immediately jumped up in excitement and cheered excitedly. Wah! Big Brother Tianqing really did it. He really cured Third Grandpa. Xiao Chen's eyes widened in shock. His face was filled with disbelief. He looked up at the sky with lifeless eyes and cried out involuntarily, Oh my God! That guy actually created a miracle? He is so strong and his medical skills are so heaven-defying. Is he still human? As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Ling glared at him and even stomped on his foot. Hey! How can you say that? If Big Brother Tianqing is not human, then what is he? After saying that, she angrily flung her sleeves and stepped out of the house, walking out of the courtyard. Chapter 1173. Xiao Chen explained to Xiao Ling along the way. Unknowingly, they arrived at the blacksmithing workshop. Just as the two of them arrived at the entrance of the workshop, they saw 4 guards standing guard outside the door. The place was heavily guarded. Spiritual energy fluctuations kept coming from the blacksmithing workshop. There were also surging and berserk earth flame essence chi flickering continuously. Clearly, the previously quiet blacksmithing workshop was finally going to start refining. The last bit of worry in Xiao Chen's heart vanished without a trace. When Xiao Chen followed Xiao Ling into the blacksmithing workshop, he saw Xiao Han standing in the hall. Not far away, there was a 30-meter-tall black cauldron wrapped in a layer of 5-colored spiritual light. Intense flames kept rising from the cauldron. The hale and hearty Third Elder with a head full of white hair stood in the air above the black cauldron. He continuously sent out beams of light with his palms, injecting vast magic energy into the cauldron. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling looked up at the Third Elder. When they saw that he looked 10 years younger, brimming with energy and vast magic energy, they immediately revealed expressions of disbelief. If they had not seen it for themselves, the two would not have believed that the Third Elder had undergone such a drastic change in just one night. This was simply inconceivable. At the same time, Xiao Han shouted with a dignified expression, What are the two of you still standing there for? Don't waste time. Quickly hand over the materials and let the Third Elder refine the magic treasure for you. Only then did the two recover their wits. They quickly took out the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-modeled beast, as well as several sets of metal materials from their spatial rings. Xiao Han waved his hand and sent out a beam of 5-colored light, sweeping up all the materials and handing them to the Third Elder. All right, you can go out now. Before the Holy Fire Festival starts, come here to collect your magic treasures. Xiao Han waved his sleeves and said with a dignified expression. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were filled with excitement. They immediately bowed and expressed their gratitude to Xiao Han and the Third Elder. After that, The two left the blacksmithing workshop, filled with joy and anticipation. On the way back to his residence, Xueqi still had a smile on his face. After he obtained the magic treasure, he would be able to suppress everyone in the Holy Fire Festival and become the champion. However, Xiaoling's beautiful eyes flickered. A crafty look flashed in her clear eyes. She pretended to be calm and said, "Xueqi, you can go back first. I have something to do and will be leaving for a while." With that, she turned to leave. Xueqi immediately stopped and asked in confusion, "Little sister Ling, where are you going?" The night after tomorrow is the Holy Fire Festival. The third elder is refining magic treasures for us. We should prepare well. Oh, you must be looking for young Master Tianxing, right? Xiaolinger instantly frowned and glared at him angrily. What does it have to do with you? Go prepare yourself. As she spoke, she quickly ran away, and her figure quickly disappeared at the end of the blue stone path. Xueqi stood in place and looked at her back as she left. He felt a little sour in his heart. He muttered in a somewhat desolate manner, "Why does little sister Ling look like she is going to meet her lover? Did she really fall in love with that guy? If that's the case, I wonder how many young disciples will be heartbroken." As soon as he finished speaking, he shook his head with a bitter smile, turned around and left. Xiaolinger asked around in Tingfeng Garden and found out that Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han lived in Pine Tree Courtyard. This courtyard had a quiet and secluded environment and was filled with spiritual energy. It was one of the best courtyards in Tingfeng Garden. Only the most distinguished people could live in it. Normally, juniors like Xiaolinger and Xueqi did not have the qualifications to come here. When she entered Pine Tree Courtyard and stood outside Ji Tianxing's room, she was immediately stopped by two guards. One of them bowed to Xiaolinger and said expressionlessly, "Miss Linger, our clan's distinguished guest lives here. Please do not disturb him." Xiaolinger had already expected this. She said seriously, "I don't need you to remind me. I am here on Uncle Xiao Han's orders to find Big Brother Tianxing to discuss some matters. Move aside." She was exceptionally intelligent and had a nimble mind. Lying was naturally easy for her. The two guards looked at each other, not daring to confirm if her words were true or false. After hesitating for a moment, they could only step back and move aside. "Miss Linger, please." Xiaolinger revealed a faint smile. She pushed open the door and entered the room. The room was very quiet. There was no one in the spacious and bright living room. There was also no one in the side bedroom and study. Xiaolinger walked around the room, but she did not see Ji Tianxing anywhere. Big Brother Tianxing clearly lives here. He should be in his room. Where did he go? She muttered doubtfully. Suddenly, a calm and gentle voice sounded from behind her. "Miss Ling, are you looking for me?" This voice sounded abruptly and right next to her ear. It immediately gave Xiaolinger a fright. She suddenly turned around and saw that Ji Tianxing had appeared behind her without her knowing. He was so quiet that she did not notice him at all. Ji Tianxing still looked the same as before. He was wearing a white robe, his long hair reached his waist, and his entire body emitted a transcendent and noble aura. The corner of his mouth held a faint smile. At that moment, Xiaolinger looked at him from such a close distance and was actually somewhat stunned. Only when Ji Tianxing stretched out his hand and waved it in front of her eyes did she come back to her senses. She hurriedly lowered her head. Her expression was slightly embarrassed and shy. She explained somewhat uneasily, "Big Brother Tianxing, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disturb." Ji Tianxing nodded slightly. He still had a calm expression as he said, "It's fine. I just finished recuperating. If you have something to say, just say it." Xiaolinger was suddenly speechless. Her heartbeat sped up again. She did not know what to say. Previously, she was only agitated for a moment and wanted to find Ji Tianxing to thank him in person. But now that she saw Ji Tianxing, her mind went blank and she forgot about this matter. Ji Tianxing could not help but reveal a smile when he saw that she was usually mischievous but slightly stupid in front of him. "Miss Ling, you probably came to find me to thank me in person, right?" Right. Xiaolinger only remembered the reason after he reminded her. She hurriedly nodded and said, "I just wanted to thank Big Brother Tianxing in person." Ji Tianxing said with a calm expression, "It's nothing. You don't have to thank me." Xiao Ling was at a loss again. Her beautiful eyes looked around, but she did not know what to say. However, Ji Tianqing looked at her with a smile, waiting for her to get down to business. This made her feel even more awkward and uneasy. Finally, Ji Tianqing took the initiative to speak. Miss Ling this is my first time in the Xiao clan. I have nothing to do and want to take a stroll outside. Can you be my guide? Xiao Ling's eyes immediately lit up. She hurriedly nodded and said, Of course I'm willing. It's Ling honor to be able to serve Big Brother Tianqing. She happily agreed and hurriedly brought Ji Tianqing out of the pine tree courtyard and strolled around Tingfeng Garden. The two of them chatted as they walked. It did not take long for them to walk around Tingfeng Garden. Hence, under Ji Tianqing's request, Xiao Ling brought him out of Tingfeng Garden. Chapter 1174. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Ling flew through the Xiao clan, crossing several mountain ranges and plains. Every time they passed by a place, Xiao Ling would tell Ji Tianqing about the interesting things that happened in those places when she was young. 2 hours later, the two of them were a few hundred miles away from the breezing garden and stopped at a dark green mountain. The two of them landed in the valley and looked up at the tall mountain. They saw a silver waterfall pouring down from the peak of the mountain. The 300-meter-wide torrent poured down with a rumbling sound, splashing up a mist that filled the sky and creating a loud rumbling sound in the valley. The sunlight shone on the jade-white waterfall, reflecting a dazzling radiance. It looked exceptionally dreamy and blurred. Xiao Ling pointed at the majestic waterfall and the deep pool below it. She smiled and said, Big Brother Tianqing, this is the Flying Star Waterfall. We often played here when we were young. Back then, everyone liked to come here to play in the water and dive into the deep pool to catch fish. Later on, when we grew up, we practiced our swordsmanship and inner strength under the waterfall. Those 2 years were too tough. Now that I think about it, it still feels like yesterday. Xiao Ling's face revealed a look of reminiscence. Her smile was very sincere and clean. Ji Tianqing nodded and said emotionally, Every martial arts genius has a story of extraordinary hardships behind them. The sharpness of a treasured sword is sharpened, and the fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. Only martial artists who never admit defeat and have gone through countless trials and tribulations can become experts. Xiao Ling nodded in agreement. She looked up at his face and asked with bright eyes, Big Brother Tianqing, can you tell me about your past? Ji Tianqing's lips curled into a smile. My story? There are too many. Which one do you want to hear? Xiao Ling thought for a while and said with a smile, When I was 15 or 16. Ji Tianqing's body trembled, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. He was about to reject her when the sound of something breaking through the air came from the entrance of the valley. 6 young martial artists in luxurious clothes flew across the sky at lightning speed and landed in the valley. Swish! 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 The 6 of them landed beside Ji Tianqing and Xiao Ling surrounding the two of them. Xiao Ling's expression instantly went grim when she saw these 6 young disciples, and her beautiful face was covered in frost. The 6 of them were the best in the 2nd branch and the 5th branch of Xiao clan. They were all in their early 20s and had reached the 3rd level of Sky Origin stage. The 2 people in the lead were Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku, though their cheeks were no longer swollen and funny as they had been the day before. However, a few bloodstains could still be seen on their faces. The 2 of them stared coldly at Ji Tianqing, sneering. Brat, just now, this young master's informant came to report that you and Xiao Ling walked out of Tingfeng Garden together. This young master didn't quite believe it. I didn't expect you to be so thick-skinned and shameless. You've progressed so quickly. Little brat, you had Xiao Han's protection yesterday. Now that you've fallen into our hands, let's see if you still dare to be arrogant. Aren't you arrogant? Aren't you famous? Aren't you envied and challenged wherever you go? Come on, if you're a man, then repeat what you said yesterday. The 2 of them had a manic aura, and their eyes were surging with anger and killing intent. As soon as the 2 of them finished speaking, the other 4 young men from Xiao clan burst into laughter. The 4 of them held onto their swords and stared maliciously at Ji Tianqing with mocking sneers on their faces. Seeing this, Xiao Ling was instantly enraged. She berated with a frosty face. Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku. Wasn't yesterday's lesson enough? The 2 of you clearly know Brother Tianqing's identity, yet you still dare to seek revenge so insolently. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the Hall of Law? Xiao Chong glared at her fiercely and sneered. Humph! What bullshit identity! Isn't he just relying on Xiao Han's protection? Without Xiao Han's presence, this brat is just a piece of trash. Other than bragging and using flowery words to deceive a silly girl like you, what else does he have? Xueqi also sneered and said, if it weren't for this brat, why would we be in such a sorry state? The humiliation we suffered last night, we'll pay him back in double today. Xiao Ling was instantly enraged. She pointed at the two of them and berated, Xiao Chong, Xueqi, don't forget that the clan rules forbid private fights. Don't tell me you want to be expelled from the clan? Haha, what do you mean by private fight? Xiao Chong sneered and said fearlessly, we were just curious about the Xiao clan's branch disciple and wanted to have a friendly spar with him. Don't worry, we won't kill him. As long as he kneels down and kowtows to me, I'll spare his life. Xueqi also grinned and said with a hideous smile, Tianqing Xiao, as long as you kowtow to the six of us and get out of the Xiao clan, we'll spare you. The two's ugly faces made Xiao Ling tremble in anger. She scolded in a cold tone, you bunch of beasts that are worse than pigs and dogs. The Hall of Law will definitely punish you severely. Xiao Chong sneered in disdain. This place is a few hundred miles away from the Hall of Law. Other than us, who would know what happened? Even if you went to complain to the Hall of Law, would he believe the two of you or the six of us? Do you think that the Hall of Law will be like you, helping an outsider and helping a lowly branch disciple? The word lowly deeply provoked Xiao Ling causing her to be enraged. She subconsciously wanted to draw her sword. Xiao Chong, how dare you insult Big Brother Tianqing? I'll fight it out with you. In her heart, Ji Tianqing was a graceful and elegant young master in a chaotic world. He was also a peerless genius, a peerless prodigy that couldn't be blasphemed. However, just as she was about to pull out her sword, a broad and powerful palm gently pressed down on her weak shoulder. That palm was very warm, but it was as heavy as a mountain, causing her to be unable to move. She turned her head to look to the side and saw Ji Tianqing looking at her with a smile on his face. He said in a gentle tone, it's not worth it to get angry with a bunch of beasts. They aren't worthy. Seeing Ji Tianqing smile and hearing his voice, Xiao Ling didn't know why, but the rage in her heart actually instantly dissipated, and her entire heart calmed down. She was filled with confidence towards Ji Tianqing, and her heart was filled with a sense of security. She believed that as long as he was by her side, even if the sky collapsed, he would support it with one arm. This was the magic on his body, the charm that he possessed. However, a burst of ear-piercing mocking laughter interrupted her thoughts and also destroyed the beautiful atmosphere. Ha! Brothers, quickly look. This fellow is still pretending when he's about to die. Tisk tsk, hearing about him really can't compare to meeting him in person. This kid is simply arrogant to the point of being out of control. Humph. I think that this fellow is a madman. Xiao Chong, Xueqi, and the others all had faces full of contempt and ridicule as they discussed. Chapter 1175. Ji Tianqing's words made everyone quiet down instantly. Xiao Chong, Xueqi, and the rest were stunned as they looked at him strangely. After a while, everyone came back to their senses and burst into laughter. Ha ha ha! I'm dying of laughter. This guy is really crazy. I think he even forgot his own surname, right? I've learned something new. I've never seen such a pretentious person in my life. Look at how serious his expression is when he's bragging. Even he believes it himself. I'm completely convinced. This guy is already possessed. The crowd roared with laughter as they mercilessly mocked him. Ji Tianqing's expression was still indifferent as he said in a cold tone, I originally didn't want to bother with you bunch of clowns, but you pestered me again and again. Then I can only give you a lesson that you'll never forget. Xiao Chong, Xueqi, and the rest burst into laughter again. The expressions on their faces became more and more ferocious, and the murderous aura on their bodies became heavier. But at this moment, Ji Tianqing's expression suddenly changed. He stood on the spot without moving. His hands were behind his back, and he had the posture of a powerhouse. But a dazzling white light gushed out of his body and instantly divided into 6 parts, enveloping Xiao Chong, Xueqi, and the rest. Swoosh! Within the white light, there was a vast and majestic soul energy. It immediately invaded the bodies of the 6 people and fiercely suppressed their souls. Suddenly, the laughter of the 6 people stopped abruptly. The expressions on their faces immediately stiffened, and their bodies also seemed to have been petrified. They had no idea what had happened. They only felt as if their souls were struck by lightning. Their minds went blank on the spot, and they lost the ability to think. In the next moment, unparalleled pain came from the depths of their souls, causing their bodies to tremble like a sieve. Their legs went soft, and they knelt on the ground. The 6 people were suffering the most terrifying pain in their lives. They were terrified to the extreme, and their faces were distorted as they screamed miserably. Cold sweat broke out all over their bodies. As they screamed miserably, they frantically kowtowed to Ji Tianqing and Xiao Ling. Their heads fiercely hit the ground, making banging sounds. In just a few breaths of time, the ground was dented by their heads, and a few blue stones were smashed into powder. Everyone kowtowed until their heads were full of blood. Their bodies were soaked in cold sweat, and hot yellow water was also coming out of their pants. They looked extremely miserable. Xiao Ling was dumbstruck at that moment. Her clear eyes opened wide, and her heart was filled with shock. She simply couldn't believe that these 6 fellows who were incomparably arrogant just a moment ago were now crazily kowtowing and begging for mercy as if they had seen the most terrifying demon god in the world. This was just too dreamy. Ji Tianqing looked at the crowd expressionlessly. His eyes were as calm as water, without the slightest ripple. A bunch of trash. I haven't even made a move yet, and you're already so scared. How pitiful. His voice was indifferent as he spoke. After which, he turned around and left with Xiao Linger. Even when he and Xiao Ling flew out of the valley and disappeared into the horizon, Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and the others were still kneeling on the ground, frantically kowtowing in pain and fear. After a long while, everyone finally regained their senses and hurriedly got up from the ground. They were all still in shock as they sized each other up. They saw that everyone's faces were covered in blood, and their hair was disheveled. Moreover, their clothes were soaked, and they were emitting the stench of feces and urine. They were simply in an extremely sorry state. Everyone recalled Ji Tianqing's words and instantly felt extremely humiliated. They even had the thought of committing suicide. My illustrious reputation is all ruined. Xiao Tianqing. I'll never let you go, you bastard. Bastard! I don't know what sorcery he used to bewitch our minds and make us kowtow to him. He deserves to die. Everyone roared with grief and indignation as they cursed crazily. After a long time, Xiao Chong and Xiao Ke gradually calmed down. Their eyes flickered with resentment. Xiao Ke lifted his sleeve to wipe the blood off his face. His face was livid with anger as he asked in a deep voice, Xiao Chong, Xiao Tianqing humiliated us like this. I swear I won't stop until I destroy his reputation. Xiao Chong was so angry that his face turned purple. He asked in a cold tone, Then, what method do you have to wash away today's humiliation? Xiao Ke's eyes were filled with rage as he said with resentment, It's still the same method as back then. I want him to suffer all kinds of humiliation during the Holy Fire Festival and be expelled from the Xiao clan like a stray dog. Hearing this, Xiao Chong immediately grinned coldly. That's right. Xiao Chen's elder brother was ruined by us just like that. If not for the 3rd elder trying his best to protect and plead for mercy, he would have been expelled from the Xiao clan long ago. Even so, he is now a lowly odd-job worker, only able to work in the mines. Xiao Tianqing, that bastard, is just a branch family disciple. Even with Xiao Han's protection, he will not be able to escape the fate of being expelled from the clan. Xiao Ke nodded and exchanged glances with Xiao Chong. Both of them revealed sinister and resentful smiles. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Ling flew out of the valley and continued to fly towards the depths of the Xiao clan. After the 2 of them flew out for 250 kilometers, Xiao Linger stopped and stood in the sky above a dense forest. Elder brother Tianqing, this is as far as we can go. We can't go any further. Ji Tianqing looked ahead and saw a towering mountain that was over 10,000 meters tall at the end of the horizon 50 kilometers away. That towering mountain was shrouded in white clouds and thick fog. It looked very mysterious and emitted a majestic aura that could suppress the world. It was like a pillar that supported the sky in this alternate dimension. He asked doubtfully, What's wrong? Why can't we go any further? Xiao Ling hesitated for a while before explaining softly, Elder brother Tianqing, that is our Shao clan's forbidden ground, the Pillar of Heaven's mountain. It is said that the Shao clan's old ancestor resides there. The Shao clan's old ancestor's residence? Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows as a playful look flashed in his eyes. Xiao Ling nodded and pulled his arm. Her eyes were clear as she said, "Elder brother Tianqing, let's go back. Ling knows how to brew tea. I will brew this year's Spirit Heart tea for you." Ji Tianqing smiled and waved his hand. "There's no need to go through so much trouble. The Holy Fire Festival is coming soon. You have to prepare well. Don't you want to leave the Shao clan? Then you can't disappoint everyone." Xiao Ling's eyes lit up when she heard that. She raised her head and asked, "Elder brother Tianqing, will you leave the Shao clan after the Holy Fire Festival?" "Yes." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly. "If I get the top 2 in the assessment and leave the Shao clan, will I be able to see you often in the future?" Ji Tianqing only smiled and didn't answer. Xiao Ling was certain of the answer in her heart. She clenched her small fist and said firmly, "Elder brother Tianqing, don't worry. I will definitely get the top 2 in the assessment. I won't let you down." Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "Then you should go back and prepare. I will walk around by myself." Xiao Ling didn't doubt him at all. She quickly nodded and agreed. After bidding farewell, she flew back. Chapter 1176. Ji Tianqing came to the Shao clan to meet the Shao clan's patriarch. He didn't care about the Shao clan's Holy Fire Festival or the grudges between the young disciples. In fact, he was just a passerby to the Shao clan. He came to the Shao clan to verify one thing. Once he got the answer, he could leave without any worries. Therefore, when he found out that the Pillar of Heaven's mountain was the residence of the Shao clan's patriarch, he rushed over without hesitation. Swoosh! He passed through the clouds and landed on the peak of the Pillar of Heaven's mountain that was 10,000 meters tall. On the peak of the Pillar of Heaven's mountain, there was a piece of flat land with a radius of 10 miles. This piece of land was filled with dark red spiritual feather maple leaves. The red leaves were like the feathers of a divine bird and were as red as fire. Surrounded by thousands of spiritual feather maple leaves, there was a wooden house made of black soul wood. The wooden house had 2 floors and about 6 to 7 rooms. An invisible soul-grade array protected the entire wooden house. Even after thousands of years, it wouldn't decay. Every room in the wooden house had its own defensive array that contained the power of space. They all had their own mysteries. In the small courtyard outside the wooden house, there was a 300-meter-tall green maple tree. The tree trunk was 30 meters thick and the wide tree crown covered an area with a radius of 10,000 feet. Pieces of dark green maple leaves fell from the tree crown, sprinkling in the quiet little courtyard, making rustling sounds. Under the 1,000-year-old tree, there was a green stone table and 2 stone stools. On the table, there was a chessboard with hundreds of black and white chess pieces. Beside the table, there was a green jade pot filled with bejeweled nectar that emitted an intoxicating fragrance. A skinny old man in a black robe with white hair that reached his waist was sitting on the stone stools like a withered tree. He didn't move at all. His aura was extremely restrained, like an ordinary person. There wasn't even any aura of life on his body. He was like a piece of withered wood. Regardless of whether one looked at him with a naked eye or spiritual consciousness, one would mistakenly think that he was an old man who had passed away. However, Ji Tianqing's spiritual energy could detect that the black-robed old man's spiritual energy was as vast as the sea. He could vaguely sense that the white-haired old man's spirit power seemed to have reached the peak of the soul refinement realm and was only a step away from entering the essence soul supremacy realm. The black-robed old man sat under the tree. His white hair and black robes were covered with dozens of green maple leaves. No one knew how long he had been sitting under the tree, but he hadn't moved at all. He stared at the chessboard on the table without any ripples in his eyes. Ji Tianqing shook his head lightly and said calmly, "I have just entered the soul tempering stage and have only heard about the other continent recently. I know very little about it. How would I know the way to go to that continent?" The Shao clan's patriarch nodded slightly and calmed down. He sat back down on the stone bench. He looked at Ji Tianqing expressionlessly and asked in a deep voice, "You are the Ji Tianqing that Shao Han mentioned in the letter?" "That's right, I am," Ji Tianqing replied in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. The Shao clan's patriarch said calmly, "No matter how famous you are in the middle ground, it has nothing to do with me. The Xiao clan has never interfered in the affairs of the continent. This old man has already ordered Xiao Han to bring you here after the Holy Fire Festival. You came uninvited and trespassed into my cave abode. Aren't you afraid that I will punish you? Ji Tianxing saw that he was showing signs of anger, but he was not worried. He smiled and said, Senior, please don't be angry. Please listen to my story. 1,000 years ago, the ancient demon emperor wreaked havoc in the world. He invaded the middle ground and cruelly massacred millions of people. At that time, a peerless prodigy appeared in the human race. He single-handedly defeated the army of 1,000,000 demons and killed the ancient demon emperor with one sword. He sealed him in the Tianshan region. A few years later, the chaos of the demons was quelled, and this peerless prodigy became the publicly acknowledged strongest person in the continent. With just one sword, he broke all the laws in the world and killed all the strong enemies. Everyone in the world called him Ken Shin. Hearing this, the Xiao clan's patriarch's expression changed drastically. His deep eyes surged with light, and his expression became extremely solemn. Ji Tianxing continued, Everyone thinks that Ken Shin is arrogant, cold, and heartless. He will never take in disciples in his life. However, very few people know that although Ken Shin does not take in disciples, he once guided a few young talents and taught 4 young geniuses. Among the 4, one of them happened to have the surname Xiao. Senior, don't you think this is very coincidental? After saying that, he looked at the Xiao clan's patriarch with a smile. The Xiao clan's patriarch frowned. His entire body was wrapped in a layer of coldness, and a majestic divine spirit power was accumulated in his body. He stared at Ji Tianxing warily and asked in a cold voice, Kid, who are you? How do you know this secret? Ji Tianxing looked straight at him. His chest was open and he said righteously, The successor of the sword god. Ha ha ha. The Xiao clan's patriarch raised his head and laughed loudly. His entire body erupted with rage, and his aura skyrocketed. Ridiculous! The sword god had already fallen 1,000 years ago. How old are you? How dare you tease me like this? Aren't you afraid that I'll break your neck? Before Ji Tianxing could speak, the ancient voice of the burial of heaven came from the broken sword. Chapter 1177. The burial of heaven's voice rang out under the green maple tree, and Ji Tianxing and the Xiao clan's patriarch were stunned. The Xiao clan's patriarch's body stiffened, and his expression changed drastically. His deep eyes were filled with disbelief. He thought that he had heard wrongly and was somewhat unsure. After being stunned for a while, he muttered, What a familiar voice! Could it be burial of heaven? Ji Tianxing also came back to his senses. His gaze was a little strange as he looked at the Xiao clan's patriarch with a half-smile. He thought to himself, Dumbo? Why would the burial of heaven call him that? In his opinion, the Xiao clan's patriarch had single-handedly created the huge Xiao clan, and his own strength had reached the peak of the spirit refinement realm. He was comparable to the human race's imperial tutor. How could such a godlike figure have such a cliché nickname? Wasn't this too down to earth? At that moment, the broken sword flew out and floated in front of the Xiao clan's patriarch. The burial of heaven's voice rang out from the broken sword again. Dumbo Xiao, looks like you haven't forgotten me. The Xiao clan's patriarch saw the broken sword with his own eyes and heard the burial of heaven's voice. He was so excited that his face was flushed red, and his eyes were filled with excitement and surprise. Burial of heaven. It's really you. It's unbelievable. I didn't expect to see you again after 1,000 years. The unparalleled surprise made his excited voice tremble a little, and the white beard on his chin also trembled. The burial of heaven's tone was a little playful as he asked, Dumbo Xiao, 1,000 years have passed. Have you gone to heaven? Ahem. The excited Xiao clan's patriarch's face flushed red, and he hurriedly coughed twice to hide his awkwardness. Ji Tianxing's interest was piqued when he saw his strange expression and awkward expression. He thought to himself, what kind of joke is this? Looks like the Xiao clan's patriarch had a story when he was young? To resolve the awkwardness, the Xiao clan's patriarch hurriedly changed the topic and asked, Burial of heaven, I haven't seen you for 1,000 years. How did you become like this? Why was the divine sword broken? Also, is Master really like what the legends say? Did he really fall long ago? Burial of Heaven said leisurely. It's a long story. The Shao clan's patriarch opened his eyes wide and looked at the broken sword expectantly. It's fine. I have enough time. You can tell me slowly. After Master left, I have been diligently cultivating day and night. I have not let down Master's guidance and teachings. Unfortunately, not long after I reached the soul refining realm, news of my Master's death spread throughout the continent. I traveled across the entire continent and spent more than 200 years searching through all kinds of ancient ruins and forbidden grounds. I only wanted to find a way to leave the Tianxian land. I really want to verify the authenticity of the news and investigate the truth of the matter. The Shao clan's patriarch recounted the past in a low voice. His eyes were filled with reminiscence and nostalgia. Although Kenshin had never taken him in as a disciple, he had only given him pointers and taught him. However, he had always considered himself as a disciple of Kenshin. He would always remember the kindness of his teacher's teachings, and he respected and worshipped Kenshin to the extreme. Moreover, his feelings and experiences were very similar to Emperor Ye's. After he finished speaking, Burial of Heaven said calmly, "Regarding this matter, I will slowly tell you in detail in the future. After 1,000 years, I have also suffered serious damage. My memory is incomplete, and I can't remember clearly what happened back then. If you want to investigate the truth and achieve your wish, you have to do your best to help Ji Tianqing. He is our hope." What Burial of Heaven said was the same as what it had said to Emperor Yi back then. Hearing its words, the Shao clan's patriarch immediately raised his eyebrows and looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. In that case, this kid is really Master's successor? Of course. Burial of Heaven said in a solemn tone. He has already inherited Kenshin's bloodline and ultimate techniques. He reached the soul refining realm at the age of 20, and his name shook the world. Shao Han should have introduced him to you. He is the #1 genius of the human race, the #1 monster of the continent, a rare genius that even the Demon Emperor feared. His talent and aptitude are more than 10 times stronger than yours, and are on par with Kenshin back then. Only he can help you fulfill your and Yi Hengchuan's wish. The Shao clan's patriarch was stunned. He looked at Ji Tianqing with a solemn expression, and his eyes revealed deep admiration. A month ago, Shao Han sent a message, reporting that Ji Tianqing wanted to see him. Shao Han introduced Ji Tianqing in detail, saying that he was the #1 genius of the human race, the most monstrous genius of the Emperor's son. The Shao clan's patriarch was only skeptical and didn't take it to heart. But now, Burial of Heaven had personally said these words to him, and its evaluation of Ji Tianqing was the same as Kenshin's. How could he not be shocked? He had never dared to imagine that there was actually a genius in this world who could reach the height of his master Kenshin. In his opinion, this was absolutely impossible. In his heart, Kenshin was unique and irreplaceable. A moment later, he calmed down and asked Burial of Heaven, "Burial of Heaven, you mentioned Yi Hengchuan just now? You've already met him?" Burial of Heaven said calmly, "That's right. Just a few months ago, we met him in the Mangu mountain range. His situation is very similar to yours. He has also fallen into the shackles of the Essence Soul realm and has been unable to break through for 200 years. However, it's just that the time is not right for him, and his providence has yet to be bestowed upon him. When the time is right, he will naturally soar into the sky and become a supreme." The Shao clan's patriarch had lived in seclusion and cultivated bitterly for hundreds of years. He comprehended the secrets of heaven all day and played games with the heavens, all for the sake of breaking through to the Essence Soul realm. There was nothing more attractive than breaking through to the Essence Soul realm. Burial of Heaven's words made his heart beat faster, and his eyes shone brightly. He immediately asked, "When will his time be right? When will his providence be bestowed upon him?" Burial of Heaven said solemnly, "This question will depend on Ji Tianqing." Emperor Ye's providence and opportunity are on Ji Tianqing? The Shao clan's patriarch frowned and looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. Burial of Heaven responded and did not say anything else. Its words just now had already revealed too many secrets. The Shao clan's patriarch knew about Ji Tianqing's identity and importance, so he knew what to do next. He looked at Ji Tianqing with a burning gaze and asked, "Tianqing, why have you come to the Shao clan to look for me?" Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and bowed to him. He said solemnly, "Senior, the situation in the Tianxian continent is getting worse and worse. The tragedy and disaster from 1,000 years ago is about to happen again. 1,000 years ago, Kenshin suppressed the demon emperor in the Tianshan region. However, 2.5 years ago, the demon emperor broke through the seal and returned to his lair in the northern desert. With the demon emperor overseeing the northern desert, the demon clan regained their vitality and attacked the humans, demons, and water clans with great ambition. Moreover, the bloodline curse that has always existed in the demon clan has also been removed. The demon clan's power is growing rapidly. Soon, they will sweep the world and the entire Tianxian continent. Chapter 1178. Faced with Ji Tianxing's request, the Shao clan's patriarch hurriedly extended his hands and helped him up. "Tianxing, please get up." Ji Tianxing insisted on bowing and said with a sincere expression, "Senior, Kenshin and the demon race had deep enmity back then. Now that I have inherited the Kenshin bloodline and ultimate technique, I have also inherited his dying wish. I am at odds with the demon race and have an irreconcilable enmity. Not only do I have to protect myself and my friends, but I also have to exterminate the demon race and return peace to the various races of the continent. It is impossible for me to do it alone, so I have to ask for your help to complete this great task." The Shao clan's patriarch nodded solemnly and said slowly, "1,000 years ago, I created the Shao clan. In order for the Shao clan to continue on and not be destroyed quickly, I chose to live in seclusion here and requested the Shao clan's disciples not to interfere with the worldly affairs of the various races of the continent. Originally, the demon race was rampant on the continent and wantonly attacked the various races' territories. All these had nothing to do with the Shao clan. However, since you are my master's disciple, have amazing talent, and have also inherited my master's dying wish, I will of course not reject you. This old man promises you that when you need my help, I will personally come out and assist you." Seeing that he had finally agreed, Ji Tianxing heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly bowed to express his gratitude. "Thank you for your help, senior." The Shao clan's patriarch smiled and nodded. "You don't have to thank me. Perhaps we are helping each other in this matter. I have lived in seclusion here for 1,000 years, and finally, I have waited for you. In the future, whether I can improve further and break through to the Essence Soul realm, whether I can leave this continent, all depends on you." As he spoke, he took out 2 dark green jade slips from his interspatial ring and handed them to Ji Tianxing. "Tianxing, here are 2 communication jade slips. If you need help in the future, just send me a message, and I will do my best to help." After receiving the Shao clan's patriarch's promise, Ji Tianxing was satisfied and hurriedly accepted the 2 jade slips. Then, he sat opposite the Shao clan's patriarch under the green maple tree and started chatting. The Shao clan's patriarch looked at Ji Tianxing with interest and asked doubtfully, "Tianxing, I've been living in seclusion here for hundreds of years." This old man is very puzzled. "How did you know that this old man had received guidance from my master, Kenshin?" Ji Tianxing revealed a faint smile and explained, "This matter is rather interesting. I came to this conclusion through a treasure box from 1,000 years ago. A few months ago, the 3rd prince of the imperial court held a birthday banquet and invited Xiao Han and me. I personally came, but Xiao Han didn't. He just casually took out a treasure box as a congratulatory gift. He told the Shao clan's patriarch everything that had happened. After the Shao clan's patriarch heard this, he finally understood how complicated the situation was. He could not help but reveal a bitter smile and shake his head. Sigh. This is really a coincidence. Back then, when this old man was roaming the continent, I coincidentally obtained a top-notch refining material, the star sand. I placed it in a treasure box and sealed it with the array formation taught by my master. This old man originally wanted to keep this item and use it when I wanted to refine a divine artifact or dharma treasure. I didn't expect that after hundreds of years, this old man still couldn't break through the shackles and couldn't reach the essence soul realm, let alone refine a divine artifact. That star sand was placed there for hundreds of years. Later on, this old man also forgot about this matter. This old man also doesn't remember clearly when I gave that star sand to my children and grandchildren. I didn't expect that this item would eventually wander out and be found by you. Speaking of the origin of that star sand, the Shao clan's patriarch was filled with emotions. Ji Tianxing chuckled and said, Senior, perhaps this is the magical part of fate. If it wasn't for that star sand, how could I have guessed your identity? How could I have found you? Yes, indeed. The Shao clan's patriarch nodded slightly to express his agreement. The two of them chatted for a while more before Ji Tianqing stood up, bowed, and took his leave. After bidding farewell to the Shao clan's patriarch, he left the Pillar of Heaven's mountains and flew across the sky at lightning speed, returning to Tingfeng Garden. During the journey, he couldn't suppress the doubts in his heart and sent a voice transmission to Burial of Heaven, asking, "Burial of Heaven, why did you call the Shao clan's patriarch Dumbo? Is that his nickname?" "That's right." Burial of Heaven replied and said with a playful tone, "Although this fellow is now a top-notch powerhouse in the continent, the Shao clan's patriarch that ordinary people rarely see, he was very stubborn. When he was young, he was very stubborn and did things very rashly, so I always called him Dumbo." Ji Tianqing nodded and asked, "Previously, you asked if he had ever ascended to the sky. What did that mean?" Burial of Heaven's tone became even more playful. "This fellow's name is Shao Wentian. When he was young, he was a martial arts fanatic. He cultivated like a madman, not knowing fatigue or pain. He once said that his greatest dream was to ascend to the heavens and explore the starry sky beyond the heavens. He wanted to roam the Milky Way. At that time, other than diligently cultivating the sword Dao, the most common thing he did was to stand on the roof like a block of wood and look up at the sky." Hearing this, Ji Tianqing immediately imagined the corresponding scene in his mind, and he couldn't help but laugh. Burial of Heaven continued. Later, he reached the heaven origin stage and could finally fly. He couldn't wait to fly high into the sky and pass through the clouds, wanting to fly beyond the heavens. Ji Tianqing's interest was piqued, and he couldn't help but ask, "What was the result?" "Is there a need to guess the result?" Before he could even touch the astral winds in the sky, his true essence was exhausted and he fell head first, almost falling to his death. "Ha ha!" Ji Tianqing couldn't help but laugh, and said in a mocking tone, "It's really hard to imagine that he had such a ridiculous experience when he was young. No wonder when you asked him if he had ever ascended to the sky, he was so embarrassed that his old face turned red." Burial of Heaven talked about a few more things about Shao Wentian's past, and Ji Tianqing couldn't help but laugh all the way back to Tingfeng Garden. He finally understood why Burial of Heaven gave Shao Wentian the nickname of a fool. When he returned to Tingfeng Garden, it was already afternoon. Shao Ling listened to his advice and prepared for the Holy Fire Festival's examination, and went to cultivate in peace. He returned to his room to rest for a while, and saw Shao Han return with a tired face. Thus, he greeted Shao Han. "Lord Divine General, why do you look so pale?" Shao Han nodded at him in return and explained, "Just now, I helped third uncle refine the magic treasure, and used up a lot of magic power, but I'll be fine after a night's rest." Ji Tianqing thought for a while and then said, "Lord Divine General, I've already met the Shao clan's patriarch, and I've already achieved my goal of coming to the Shao clan, so I'm preparing to leave." "Ah!" Shao Han was stunned, and said with a face full of astonishment, "Where did you meet the patriarch? He didn't blame you, did he?" Chapter 1179. My forefather had a good chat with you? He even agreed to your request? Shao Han's body trembled as he looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. His eyes were filled with shock as he could not believe it. After all, the Shao clan's forefather held a very high position, and even he had only met him twice. After a moment of silence, he could not help but ask, "Tianqing, I have a question in my heart, but I've been holding it in. Can you tell me what's the relationship between you and my forefather? Why did you come to the Shao clan to look for my forefather?" Ji Tianqing revealed a smile and said, "Sir Divine General, I do have some relationship with your forefather, but as for what it is, please forgive me for not being able to reveal it. As for the reason why I came to look for your forefather, if I told you that I want to ask him to come out and help me save the Tianxian continent, would you believe me?" "Ask my forefather to help you save the Tianxian continent?" Shao Han was stunned as he looked at him strangely. He did not know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "Tianqing, it's fine if it's not convenient for you to reveal it. Why do you have to make fun of me?" Ji Tianqing looked at him with a faint smile and said with a playful tone, "I'm telling you the truth, but you don't believe me. Then there's nothing I can do." Shao Han smiled bitterly and said, "Our Shao clan has never interfered with worldly affairs. How could my forefather help you save the continent?" Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, "Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. I've finished my business and achieved my purpose in coming to the Shao clan. I'll take my leave now. Xiao Han immediately persuaded him to stay. Tianxing, you don't have to be in a hurry to leave. Tomorrow night is the Holy Fire Festival, a grand festival that happens once every 20 years. Since you're here, of course you should watch the ceremony before you leave. Besides, if you want to leave now, I can't send you off or lead the way for you. Why don't you stay for one more day? After the Holy Fire Festival ends, we'll leave together. What do you think? Ji Tianxing thought for a moment and nodded. All right, since you've said so, I'll wait for one more day. The matter was settled. Ji Tianxing stayed in Tingfeng Garden for the time being. He would leave with Xiao Han after the Holy Fire Festival ended. Xiao Han's face was full of weariness. His magic power was exhausted, so he returned to his room to meditate and adjust his breathing. Ji Tianxing had nothing to do, so he went to the weapon forging workshop to watch the third elder forge a magic weapon. In order to help the third elder refine the magic treasure as soon as possible, he also lent a helping hand. Using his vast and boundless magic power, he added 2 more restrictive magic arrays on the magic treasure. In this way, the refining speed of the magic treasure would be much faster, and the power of the magic treasure after it was refined would increase by about 50%. During this process, he also exchanged insights with the third elder and learned a lot from him. Unknowingly, 12 hours had passed. When Ji Tianxing left the armament workshop, it was already late at night. As soon as he returned to the verdant pine courtyard, he saw a black shadow flash by in the dark night. The black shadow was extremely fast and agile. In the blink of an eye, it flew out of the verdant pine courtyard. Even so, Ji Tianxing's superb eyesight and powerful spiritual power were still able to detect some information. He could see that the black shadow was a middle-aged man wearing a black robe and a mask. His strength was around Sky Origin Stage LV8. Moreover, the black shadow was very unfamiliar. His movements were sneaky, and he seemed to have ill intentions. With his powerful spiritual power, he memorized the spiritual aura of the masked man and secretly detected his escape route. The masked man was very familiar with the terrain of Tingfeng Garden. After flying out of the verdant pine courtyard, he quietly avoided several sentry posts and guards and left Tingfeng Garden. Ji Tianxing's soul power silently spread out and detected that the masked man was flying in the northwest direction. He did not chase after him. Instead, he returned to his room with a calm expression and pondered silently. This man is very familiar with the terrain and guards of Tingfeng Garden. He should be from the Xiao clan. If he is from the Xiao clan, why is he wearing a black robe and a mask and sneaking out of the verdant pine courtyard? No one usually lives in this courtyard. Only Xiao Han and I live here. No. There must be a conspiracy. Thinking of this, Ji Tianxing immediately released his spiritual power and extended it in all directions to investigate the entire verdant pine courtyard. Under the cover of his powerful spiritual power, every brick and tile, every inch of the walls and floor of the verdant pine courtyard appeared clearly in his mind. He quickly detected that there was a trace of true origin left in his room. That trace of true origin was the same as the masked man's aura. Therefore, he stepped into the room and looked around with a burning gaze. He also used his spiritual power to search carefully. After a few breaths, he found something strange on the floor under the wooden bed. On the floor in the corner of the room, a basin-sized green brick showed signs of loosening. He stretched out his hand and pulled the heavy wooden bed away. He lifted the dark green floor tile and saw a square black treasure box buried in the ground. Swoosh! He shot out a ray of golden light and wrapped it around the treasure box. He held it in front of him and looked at it carefully. He saw that the treasure box was very classical in style. Its surface was carved with exquisite patterns, and it exuded an ancient aura. Probably because the treasure box was often played with, the edges and corners had been polished and smooth. The treasure box was sealed by a powerful array, and it faintly exuded a magnificent fluctuation of spiritual qi. Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a while. He started to cast a spell to break the seal on the treasure box. After about an hour, he broke the seal and opened the treasure box with a click. Suddenly, the treasure box emitted a dazzling 5-colored light, and it overflowed with a vast amount of spiritual qi. Ji Tianxing lowered his head to take a look and saw a fist-sized 5-colored crystal in the treasure box. It was translucent and exquisite as it glowed. Could it be a top-notch magic treasure? Or a gem material? He raised his eyebrows and held the 5-colored diamond-shaped crystal. He injected a trace of magic power into it. Suddenly, the five-colored crystal emitted a dazzling light and condensed into a light screen in front of him. On the 2-meter-wide light screen, lines of ancient seal characters appeared. All of them were shining with dazzling light. Ji Tianxing looked at it and realized that the 2,000-odd words on the light screen were a profound and obscure cultivation technique. Hehe. I didn't expect it to be a soul-level cultivation technique. Interesting. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer as a cold light flashed in his eyes. He did not need to investigate to know that this cultivation technique was the core secret of the Shao clan. It was the most precious and priceless treasure. As for the other party's intentions, it was clear as day. You want to trick me? Then I'll beat you at your own game. Ji Tianxing murmured as he put the five-colored crystal back into the treasure box, putting it back in its original state. There were abundant cultivation resources stored within, and it was also filled with a dense true essence aura. That was Shao Chong's aura. This room must be Shao Chong's bedroom. Thus, Ji Tianxing stretched out his hand and pressed it into the wall. His palm was as sharp as a blade, and he cut open the blue stone wall effortlessly. He took out the treasure box from his spatial ring and hid it in the wall. Then, he rubbed his palms against the green stone wall and used his qi to smooth it out, leaving no traces behind. After doing this, he quietly left the room and left the manor. Throughout the entire process, he did not make a single sound, nor did he alert anyone. 15 minutes later, he returned to his residence in Tingfeng Garden. He sat in his room and meditated. The night passed very quickly. After dawn, the entire Shao clan was bustling with activity. Today was the day of the Holy Fire Festival. It would be held tonight at Evergreen Mountain. Evergreen Mountain was the main peak of this mountain range. It was also where the disciples of the first branch resided. There was not only a vast and luxurious manor on that 1,000-jong-tall mountain, but there was also a plaza that could accommodate 10,000 people. In the north of the plaza stood a 300-jong-tall statue of the Shao clan's patriarch. Beside the statue was a 300-jong-tall ancient pine tree. It had a history of 1,000 years, but it was still dark green and full of vitality. That ancient pine tree was evergreen. It also meant that the Shao clan would always be prosperous and evergreen. This was also where the name Evergreen Mountain came from. Early in the morning, the disciples of the Shao clan started to get busy. Countless young disciples and servants rushed to the plaza of Evergreen Mountain to clean up the fallen leaves and decorate the venue for the Holy Fire Festival. The dozens of young disciples, including Shao Ling and Shao Chen, were cultivating intensely, repeatedly practicing the secret techniques of the martial Tao. These young disciples were going to participate in the Holy Fire Festival's test tonight, and strive to get a good ranking in the test. The rules of the Shao clan were very straightforward and simple. Only the disciples with outstanding talent and aptitude could obtain more abundant cultivation resources and receive the guidance of senior experts. Only the two most outstanding young disciples were qualified to leave the Shao clan and venture out into the outside world. For the entire day, the disciples of the Shao clan's 9th branch discussed, filled with anticipation for the Holy Fire Festival tonight. Everyone was discussing which young genius would obtain the top 2 spots and obtain the qualification to leave the Shao clan. Some people believed that Shao Chong and Shao Ku would obtain the top 2 spots. However, there were also people who felt that the top 2 spots would be Shao Chen and Shao Ling. Aside from these people, there were a few other genius disciples who also had a chance to obtain the top 2 spots. In short, the disciples of the various branches all had different opinions. Ji Tianxing was not interested in this. No matter who passed the Holy Fire Festival's test or who could leave the Shao clan, it had nothing to do with him. Shao Chen sat in his room and meditated until evening. Then, he walked out of his room and rushed to Evergreen Mountain. Shao Chen's expression was as calm as water. However, a thought flashed in his mind. There will definitely be a good show to watch tonight. Thinking of this, Shao Chen's lips curled up in a playful cold smile. At the same time, a melodious voice called out to him from behind. "Elder brother Tianxing, please wait a moment." Ji Tianxing stopped and turned his head to look behind him. He saw Shao Ling and Shao Chen flying over as fast as the wind. The two stopped in front of Shao Chen, their faces filled with joy and gratitude. "Elder brother Tianxing, thank you so much." "Young Master Tianxing, many thanks for your help." The two greeted Ji Tianqing and bowed to him to express their gratitude. Ji Tianqing guessed the reason. He asked with a calm expression, "Have you finished refining your magic treasures and obtained them?" "Yes." Xiao Ling quickly nodded and said excitedly, "We finished refining our magic treasures this afternoon. After a few hours of practice, we can already familiarize ourselves with them. Third Grandpa told us that if not for your help, he would not have been able to refine them so quickly. Furthermore, you specially added 2 restriction formations on our magic treasures, increasing their might by 50%. Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Shui's magic treasures cannot be compared to ours." As she spoke, a white light surged in her palm, and a sword flickering with silver light appeared. Chapter 1181. Xiao Ling and Xiao Chen followed Ji Tianqing, one on his left and one on his right. The two were very close and respectful to Ji Tianqing, treating him like a god. The three flew through the night sky. Along the way to Evergreen Mountain, they met many Xiao clan disciples. The Xiao clan members from the various branches were all rushing to Evergreen Mountain in groups of 3 to 5. There were men and women, young and old. They were all filled with anticipation for the Holy Fire Festival tonight, discussing it as they traveled. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were famous people of the Xiao clan's younger generation, the most outstanding martial Dao geniuses. They attracted attention wherever they went. Along the way, people continuously greeted the two. When the crowd saw Ji Tianqing, they found him very unfamiliar and could not help sizing him up. This was especially so when Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling treated Ji Tianqing warmly and respectfully. This made the crowd even more curious about Ji Tianqing's identity. Soon, the three arrived at Evergreen Mountain and landed in the vast plaza. Thousands of people were already waiting in the plaza, which was 1 kilometer in diameter. Bonfires were set up around the plaza. The flames rose fiercely, illuminating the pitch-black night sky. About 4,000 Xiao clan members were divided into 9 regions, standing in the plaza. There was a tall arena 100 meters in diameter in the center of the plaza. A strong spirit grade formation protected the arena. No matter how the young geniuses fought in the arena, it would not affect the people in the plaza. After Ji Tianqing, Xiao Ling and Xiao Ling arrived at the plaza, they walked into the crowd of the third branch disciples. The three stood still in the crowd, waiting for the Holy Fire Festival to start while sizing up the surroundings. The plaza was bustling with noise and excitement. Everyone was discussing, and countless people had expectant smiles on their faces. Many young disciples were also rubbing their fists, eager to give it a try. Naturally, Xiao Ling and Xiao Chen were somewhat excited. They were very confident about tonight's test. However, the two of them did not look around. They kept Ji Tianqing by his side, telling him about the origin of the Holy Fire Festival and some of the interesting things related to it. Ji Tianqing listened quietly, nodding or commenting from time to time. His expression remained indifferent the whole time. Suddenly, he felt a few sharp auras staring at him from the shadows. He turned his head and saw a well-dressed young man staring at him coldly from the crowd of the second branch disciples next door. That young man was Xiao Chong. He was surrounded by a group of disciples from the second branch. His expression was cold, but there was a sneer in his eyes. Xiao Ku and a few other young men of the Xiao clan were among the people of the fourth and fifth branches who were further away. They cast their cold gazes at him from time to time. Obviously, these people all had their own thoughts and were waiting to watch a good show. Ji Tianqing couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them as he chatted and laughed with Xiao Ling, with an indifferent expression. Not long after, there was a commotion in the crowd, and there were exclamations and discussions. "The elders are here! Get out of the way! The Holy Fire Festival is about to begin!" When Ji Tianqing heard the crowd shouts, he looked in the direction of the sound and saw a group of elders in purple robes walking over in a dignified manner. Swish! 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 A total of 8 elders passed through the crowd in the square and flew to the arena in a row. Other than the third elder, all the elders from the 8 branches were present. The leader was a tall and burly elder with white hair and a beard. This person was the current ruler of the Xiao clan, the first elder with the most authority. His bright eyes swept across the square as he raised his hand slightly to signal for the crowd to quieten down. Instantly, the thousands of Xiao clan members in the square quietened down and didn't make any noise. This was the prestige of the first elder. Every action of his could command the entire Shao clan, and no one dared to disobey him. In fact, the first elder was the third most respected person in the Shao clan. The most respected person was of course the Shao clan's patriarch, Shao Wentian. However, he was the Shao clan's patriarch and hadn't been involved in worldly affairs for hundreds of years. In the hearts of the Shao clan members, he had become their spiritual leader and was almost like a deity. Second only to the Shao clan's patriarch was the Grand Elder. However, the Grand Elder was in seclusion all year round and rarely interfered with the clan's affairs. Therefore, the first elder, who was ranked third, was the ruler of the Shao clan. His words were the law. As everyone knows, tonight is the Holy Fire Festival that is held once every 20 years in the Shao clan. Since the patriarch set this rule 1,000 years ago, it has continued to this day and has never been changed. The patriarch's motive for setting the Holy Fire Festival is to give the young disciples of the Shao clan an opportunity to interact and improve their relationship. It is also an opportunity for everyone to showcase their strengths. Most importantly, the Holy Fire Festival is to test the results of everyone's cultivation. The first elder looked at the crowd sternly and said solemnly, "In this world, cultivation resources are always in the hands of the minority. Only the martial arts elites and geniuses have the right to enjoy and distribute resources. Regardless of whether it is the aristocratic families, sects, or any other forces, they have to follow the law of survival of the fittest. Therefore, tonight's test will determine the strength ranking of the 48 young disciples. The 2 strongest disciples would be rewarded handsomely. They would be able to leave the Shao clan and head to the central region to explore the world. The remaining 46 disciples will also enjoy different levels of resources and treatment according to their rankings. Destiny is ultimately in your own hands. Whether you live a mediocre life or shine brilliantly, it will all depend on how much effort you put in." The first elder said these words with a solemn expression. His voice spread throughout the entire plaza, causing the expressions of the thousands of people to turn solemn. The atmosphere was extremely solemn. The 48 young disciples were all motivated to the point that their blood was boiling. Their hearts were filled with fighting spirit. The thousands of bonfires around the plaza were like their emotions. They were burning fiercely and surging with high spirits. The first elder paused for a moment before announcing with a solemn expression, "Tonight's test will follow the usual practice. The second elder will start with the preliminary ranking of the 48 disciples. Only the young disciples who have reached the heavenly origin stage and above are qualified to enter the arena and draw lots to fight. This seat and the other elders will be overseeing the situation together." After the first elder finished speaking, the skinny second elder took a step forward and announced loudly, "Those who are 16 years old and have not participated in the test, step forward." Following the second elder's command, Shao Ling, Shao Chen, and the others immediately walked out of the crowd and walked to the arena. Within the 9th branch, there were a total of 48 young disciples standing in a circle around the arena. Among these young disciples, there were 19 females and 29 males. They were all between 16 and 35 years old. Among them the strongest people, such as Shao Chen, Shao Ling, Shao Chong, and Shao Ku, were all around the 4th level of the heavenly origin stage. As for the weaker disciples, they were all at the origin core stage and the 7th or 8th level of the Tongxian stage. The second elder's gaze swept across the crowd like lightning and quickly announced the preliminary ranking. Only 12 young disciples had reached the heavenly origin stage and were qualified to enter the arena. Chapter 1182. Let's not talk about the 36 disciples who had not reached the sky origin realm for now. The strength of these people was clear at a glance. They would be ranked according to their realms and given different resources and treatment. Anyway, the thousands of Shao clansmen in the square did not pay much attention to these people. Everyone's eyes and expectations were all focused on Shao Chen, Shao Ling, and the others. After the second elder announced the rankings and treatment of the 36 people, he looked at Shao Chen and the others with a dignified gaze. There are 12 disciples who have reached the sky origin realm in this Holy Fire Festival. According to everyone's strength, I will give the preliminary rankings as follows. First place, Shao Chen, Shao Ling, Shao Chong, Shao Ku, and Shao Shui are tied. Second place, Shao Pan and Shao Gang are tied. Third place, Shao Ying. Fourth place. The rankings announced by the second elder were only based on the strength of the 12 disciples. The final rankings would only be known after they went up on the stage.
With a schwa sound, the Great Elder shot out 12 rays of golden light, which wrapped around 12 jade lots, floating in the gloomy night sky.
Second Elder, please draw lots for the 12 juniors. The second elder nodded slightly and shot out a few dazzling lights, which disrupted the 12 golden lights and divided them into 6 pairs. The first elder took out the 6 pairs of jade lots and read out the names on them. Xueqi against Xiao Gang. Xiao Chen against Xiao Pan. Xiao Ling against Xiao Ying. Xiao Chong against. When the first elder finished reading out the results of the draw, everyone secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The crowd in the square also burst into discussion. Luckily, the 5 geniuses tied for first place did not meet in the first round.
Yes. Although the competition will go on for many rounds, and the strong ones will win in the end, if they meet in the first round, it will be a great loss to their strength. The top 2 of this year's assessment will definitely be chosen from those 5 geniuses. I wonder who will win. After the thousands of people in the square discussed for a while, the first elder announced the start of the competition. The first pair of disciples was Xueqi and Xiao Gang. Both of them were young men in their early 20s with a strong aura and were tall and sturdy. The martial techniques and secret techniques that they cultivated were mostly the same. Their styles were also violent and fierce. But the difference was that Xueqi was at the 4th level of Sky Origin Stage, while Xiao Gang was only at the 3rd level of Sky Origin Stage. The result was indisputable. After Xueqi and Xiao Gang fought intensely for 40 moves, Xiao Gang was defeated on the spot. The 2 of them fought fiercely in the arena. Saber light and sword shadows constantly burst forth, illuminating the dark night sky. Boom! The muffled sound spread throughout the entire evergreen mountain. It was very shocking. When Xiao Gang was defeated and left the arena in a somewhat sorry state, Xueqi revealed a complacent smile. He stood on the arena and looked down at Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling with a provocative gaze. Of course, Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were not convinced and glared back. Next, it was the turn of the second pair of young disciples. Xiao Chen stepped onto the arena and faced a young woman with a graceful figure, Xiao Pan. Xiao Pan knew that she was not as strong as Xiao Chen and could not defeat him. In order to preserve her strength and obtain a better ranking, she rationally chose to admit defeat. Xiao Chen easily won, but no one expressed any dissatisfaction. They all felt that this was a matter of course. Soon, Xiao Ling Xiao Chong, Xiao Xue, and the other young geniuses stepped onto the arena to fight. These people were the most outstanding young geniuses of the Xiao clan. They were all at the heavenly origin stage and had cultivated profound martial techniques and secret techniques. Everyone displayed their strengths in the arena. They all executed the martial techniques they were most proficient in and used their strongest secret techniques. The ground shook and the mountains shook. Muffled sounds shook the sky. The thousands of people in the plaza were dazzled by the sight. They continuously cheered and applauded. The atmosphere in the plaza became more and more lively. The Xiao clan's people were all in high spirits as they discussed spiritedly. Even the 9 elders were very satisfied with the performance of the geniuses. They would occasionally nod their heads or give a few comments. Only Ji Tianxing stood silently in the crowd, watching the fights on the arena with an indifferent expression. The fights of these heavenly origin stage cultivators were too weak in his eyes. There was nothing to watch. Soon, 2 hours passed. After more than 10 fights, Xiao Gang, Xiao Pan, Xiao Ying, and the other young disciples had their rankings confirmed. Only Xiao Chen, Xiao Chong, Xueqi, Xiao Ling and Xiao Xue were left. The top 5 had not been decided yet. They were about to enter the final fight. The highlight of the night was about to be played. The thousands of people in the plaza all burst out in excited cheers. They shouted excitedly and looked forward to it. The second elder drew lots for the 5 people to decide their opponents. Aside from Xiao Chong, who was lucky enough to get a bye, the other 4 had to fight against each other. The first match was Xiao Chen versus Xueqi. When the 2 of them revealed hostility and stepped into the arena with cold eyes, Ji Tianxing became slightly interested. He quietly watched the 2 of them fight. Xiao Chen and Xueqi already had a deep grudge. They both swore that they would defeat the other in front of everyone on the Holy Fire Festival's arena and take revenge. At this moment, the 2 of them stood still in the arena. They took out their magic treasures and attacked with all their might. Xueqi's magic treasure was a thick black saber. It weighed 5,000 kilograms and had the terrifying power to split mountains and rivers. As for Xiao Chen's magic treasure, it was the Sun and Moon magic seal. It released golden sunlight and silver moonlight. Originally, Xueqi was full of confidence and thought that he would definitely win tonight. But when Xiao Chen took out the Sun and Moon magic seal, his expression changed drastically. He revealed a look of disbelief. This is impossible. How can you have a magic treasure? Xiao Chong, Xiao Xue, and the others below the arena also revealed a look of astonishment. Their expressions became very ugly. They did not expect Xiao Chen to also have a magic treasure. Furthermore, the aura of the magic treasure was even stronger. Xiao Chen curled his lips and sneered, "Even you guys have magic treasures. Why can't I have one? Xueqi, I have waited for this night for 5 years. Since the day you framed my brother, I swore that I would defeat you in front of the entire clan during the Holy Fire Festival and trample you under my feet." Although Xueqi was flustered, he quickly calmed down. He retorted with a cold expression, "Xiao Chen, don't make slanderous accusations. Your brother violated the clan's rules and was punished by the elders." Xiao Chen's entire body was surging with anger. He shouted coldly, "You and I both know the truth of the matter. Wait until I trample you under my feet. Then you can quibble." As soon as he finished speaking, his entire body surged with 5-colored spiritual light. He poured his surging quintessence into the Sun and Moon magic seal, overturning Sky Strike. The Sun and Moon magic seal became as big as a house on the spot. It flew into the night sky and released dozens of gold and silver light pillars that were as thick as buckets. They bombarded Xueqi's head. Chapter 1183. Rumble. 10-100-meter-long gold and silver pillars of light flooded Xueqi's figure. Xueqi's saber light shadow was shattered into pieces. Following a deafening explosion, Xueqi was sent flying, crashing into the edge of the arena in a sorry state. Fortunately, the arena was protected by a soul-level grand array. That dark yellow light shield blocked him. Otherwise, he would have already fallen off the arena. How is this possible? How do you have such a strong magic treasure? Xueqi asked Xiao Chen angrily as he widened his eyes in horror. Blood continuously flowed out of his nose and mouth. However, Xiao Chen could not be bothered to explain. He grinned coldly and controlled the Sun and Moon seals again, launching an all-out attack at Xueqi. "Cut the crap. You will definitely lose tonight." Sun Moon Heavenly River. Xiao Chen recklessly circulated his quintessence, causing the Sun and Moon seals to release a gold and silver light that covered the sky. The light surged towards Xueqi like a flood. Xueqi immediately panicked. He cursed in horror as he held his saber and fled into the distance. However, before he could get far, he was drowned by the gold and silver light. The boundless gold and silver light covered his body in wounds, forcing him to flee miserably in the arena. Xiao Chen chased after him and beat him up. He could not resist at all. He could only dodge and flee. The thousands of people around the arena were already dumbfounded. They were all dumbfounded as they watched this scene. Even the 8 elders felt that this was inconceivable. They revealed shocked expressions and started discussing secretly. Isn't Xiao Chen and Xueqi's strength about the same? Why is the difference in their combat prowess so great? It is the problem with the dermic seal in Xiao Chen's hand. That magic treasure is too strong. I heard that the 3rd elder was already severely injured when he refined magic treasures for Xueqi, Xiao Chong, and the others. He is beyond cure. Why did he refine another magic treasure for Xiao Chen? The magic treasure in Xiao Chen's hand has the 3rd elder's aura. It was indeed refined by him. But this is impossible. The 3rd elder was already injured to that extent. How could he refine a magic treasure? Strange. This is completely illogical. Just as everyone was discussing animatedly, the outcome of the battle on the arena had already been decided. Xiao Chen attacked continuously for 8 moves and used several powerful secret techniques. Finally, he defeated Xueqi. Xueqi was beaten black and blue. His entire body was covered in blood, and he lay on the arena like a dead dog. He no longer had the strength to escape and could only gasp for breath. Xiao Chen put away the Sun and Moon seal and held it in his palm. He used his foot to step on Xueqi's chest and shouted with a cold expression, "Xueqi, do you admit defeat?" At this point, Xueqi had already suffered a crushing defeat. No matter how angry and unwilling he was, he could only admit defeat in front of everyone. I lost. Xiao Chen, you win. Hearing Xueqi admit defeat, Xiao Chen withdrew his foot. He glanced at him with disdain and walked off the stage. The great elder announced in a loud voice, Xiao Chen has won this battle and entered the top 3. The second battle, Xiao Ling versus Xiao Chong. Xueqi was quickly carried off the arena. Xiao Ling and Xiao Chong flew onto the arena and stood still. The two were separated by 100 meters as they stared at each other coldly. Intense rage surged in their bodies. Xiao Ling drew her treasured sword that flickered with a silver light. She said arrogantly, Xiao Chong, it is time for us to settle our grudges tonight. I do not wish to dwell on the previous grudges. Tonight, I will only make you kneel before my sword and beg for mercy. Xiao Chong stared coldly at the treasured sword in her hand. His pupils constricted, and his complexion darkened as he cursed. Xiao Ling you and Xiao Chen are truly despicable and shameless, heartless and unscrupulous. The third elder is already so injured and does not have many years left to live. Yet, you actually forced him to refine a magic treasure for you. How can our Xiao clan have scum like you? You are simply not worthy of being the Xiao clan's disciples. Xiao Ling immediately revealed an expression of disdain. She smiled coldly and said, Xiao Chong, the truly despicable and shameless people are you. If the third elder did not refine a magic treasure for you, why would he be so severely injured and suffer from hidden injuries? Don't think of stalling for time. I will defeat you in front of everyone right now and make you recognize reality. After she finished speaking, she did not hesitate to brandish her treasured sword, sending out 36 cold lights with all her might. They formed a huge plum-shaped sword flower and charged at Xiao Chong. Instantly, cold lights shot out from the arena, and the sword chi was oppressive. Xiao Chong's expression turned cold, and he quickly shut his mouth. He used all his strength to control the moon-breaking saber, sending out dozens of saber lights to block Xiao Ling's ferocious attacks. The saber lights and sword lights clashed, producing muffled pang, pang, pang sounds that echoed in the night sky. The thousands of people around the arena stared at the battlefield without blinking, holding their breaths as they watched the battle with rapt attention. Very quickly, 10 breaths of time passed. Xiao Ling and Xiao Chong exchanged 5 moves. Xiao Ling clearly had the upper hand, taking the initiative to attack. Xiao Chong was suppressed and kept retreating to dodge. He was beaten to the point that he could not raise his head, much less fight back. After 6 moves, he was injured by Xiao Ling. He vomited blood on the spot and crashed into the arena from midair. Before he could get up, Xiao Ling had already arrived before him and sent him flying with another sword strike. A bloody wound that was deep to the point bones could be seen instantly appeared on Xiao Chong's chest, and blood sprayed out from his mouth and nose. He flew out for an entire 100 meters and fiercely collided with the dark yellow defensive barrier before bouncing back and falling to the ground. This time, his injuries were even worse. He was already heavily injured, and his combat strength had greatly weakened. Even though he was filled with grief, indignation and fury, and was unable to accept the fact that he had lost miserably. But it was meaningless for him to continue fighting, and he would only be madly ravaged by Xiao Ling. So, he struggled to get up from the ground and was about to admit defeat. But he never imagined that Xiao Ling would not give him the chance to admit defeat at all. She once again executed her ultimate technique, and she held the treasured sword with both hands and fiercely slashed down. Kaboom! Amidst a deafening loud sound, a silver moon sword light that was over 30 meters long descended from the sky and slashed onto Xiao Chong. Xiao Chong was struck to the ground on the spot, and one of his arms was chopped off as well, falling onto the arena. The power that could destroy heaven and earth actually knocked him out on the spot. His vision turned black, and he fell onto the ground, unconscious. If it were not for the Xiao clan's rule that it was not allowed to kill in a battle, Xiao Chong would probably have been killed by Xiao Ling. After a long time, the silver light that filled the sky dissipated. Xiao Ling held the treasured sword in her left hand and carried the unconscious Xiao Chong with her right hand. She dragged him like she was carrying a dead dog and threw him off the arena. Such a scene immediately made everyone stare with wide eyes, revealing a face full of shock. No one dared to believe that the always clever and cute Xiao Ling actually had such a violent side. Only Xiao Ling, herself knew that the reason why she ravaged Xiao Chong like this was to vent the anger in her heart. Chapter 1184. Xiao Ku and Xiao Chong were defeated one after another. Both of them ended up in a miserable state. One was covered in injuries like a dead dog, while the other was covered in blood and unconscious. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling, performance shocked everyone in the Xiao clan. They felt that it was unbelievable. Even the 8 elders had a whole new level of respect for them. They felt that the top 2 in the assessment would definitely be theirs. Of the top 5 young geniuses, only 3 remained: Xiao Chen, Xiao Ling and Xiao Xue. Among the 3, one of them would definitely be eliminated. The other 2 would obtain the top 2 positions and obtain the right to leave the Xiao clan. Xiao Chong was still unconscious, and Xiao Zhan was circulating his energy to save him. Xiao Ke suppressed his anger and humiliation, and stayed below the ring. His face was distorted with anger as he stared at Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling with hatred. He muttered to himself, "We have not lost yet. There is still Xiao Xue. She still has hope." As he spoke, he turned his head to look at Xiao Xue, who was in the crowd, with high hopes in his eyes. However, Xiao Xue had her head lowered, and no one knew what she was thinking. She did not see Xiao Ke's gaze. Her expression was very ugly, and her eyes were as cold as ice. She clenched her fists so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Obviously, she was very nervous. She had seen Xiao Ku and Xiao Chong's miserable end clearly. She did not have any confidence in the following battles. At this moment, the second elder continued to draw lots. The first elder announced the results of the draw loudly. The final battle, Xiao Chen against Xiao Xue. Xiao Ling is lucky to have a bye and will be the second place of this holy fire festival. As his voice fell, the square was filled with thunderous cheers. Thousands of people let out excited shouts. Everyone's gaze was focused on Xiao Chen and Xiao Xue. Xiao Chen stepped onto the stage confidently and looked coldly at Xiao Xue. Xiao Xue lowered her head slightly as she held the hilt of her treasured sword. Her body was brewing quintessence. When the first elder announced the start of the duel, she did not hesitate at all. She drew her sword and thrust it at Xiao Chen. That sword was fast and ruthless. It was as fast as a ray of light, and the sword Qi soared into the sky. Her eyes were blood red, and her body was emitting a dark red killing intent. Her eyes were like 2 sharp swords that could penetrate one's heart. When Xiao Xue thrust out her sword, thousands of Xiao clan members exclaimed in surprise. The elders were also shocked, revealing expressions of disbelief. Exactly how strong is this little girl's killing intent to be able to execute such a sword strike? As expected, a woman's heart is the most poisonous. Xiao Xue has been silently enduring all this time because she was accumulating strength for this sword. Oh no, if Xiao Chen is not on guard, I'm afraid he will be injured by this sword. Just as this thought flashed through everyone's minds, Xiao Chen also made his move. He seemed to have long expected that Xiao Xue would unleash a thunderous attack, and immediately unleashed the sun and moon seal to block in front of him. The seal emitted a dazzling golden and silver light. It turned into the size of a millstone and spun in front of him. Clang! The sword light collided with the sun and moon seal, causing a loud and clear sound to ring out. Xiao Xue's murderous aura filled with extraordinary might was blocked by Xiao Chen in the end. The sword light instantly collapsed as Xiao Xue was forced to retreat a dozen steps. Her complexion turned deathly pale as dense shock gushed out from her eyes. Next, it was time for Xiao Chen to trample on her. Xiao Chen controlled the sun and moon seal, continuously releasing sunlight and moonlight. They condensed into thousands of light pillars, light blades, and sword lights, shooting at Xiao Xue like a rain of arrows. Xiao Xue was beaten back repeatedly, exhausted from defending and fleeing. She clenched her teeth tightly and persisted without making a sound, unwilling to open her mouth and admit defeat. As time passed, her quintessence was greatly depleted, and her physical strength gradually weakened. Bloody wounds also appeared all over her body. This continued until, after about 7 minutes, Xiao Chen attacked continuously for more than 50 moves. Xiao Xue's entire body was covered with hundreds of wounds. There was not a single part of her body that was intact. Dark red blood soaked her entire body, splattering on the arena and dyeing the ground dark red. She finally could not hold on any longer. After exhausting all her strength, She collapsed on the arena and shouted in a hoarse voice that she admitted defeat. The moment she admitted defeat, the thousands of Xiao clan members in the plaza were all in an uproar, shouting themselves hoarse. He won. Xiao Chen really won. Xiao Chen is indeed the #1 genius of our Xiao clan. He deserves this title. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling are indeed the strongest of the younger generation. From today onwards, the two of them can leave the Xiao clan and roam the outside world. This is too enviable. In the future, when they roam the continent, they will definitely achieve great feats and become experts that everyone will respect. The plaza was in an uproar. The bonfire burned fiercely, and the sound waves spread out continuously like the tide. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling returned to Ji Tianqing's side and excitedly reported the good news to him, bowing to express their gratitude. The two of them were very clear that if it were not for Ji Tianqing's help, they would not have the glory they had tonight. At this moment, the first elder stretched out his palms, indicating for the crowd to quieten down. Then, he solemnly announced the results. I now announce that in this Holy Fire Festival's assessment, the first place is Xiao Chen, the second place is Xiao Ling. The two of them will receive the most generous rewards and the right to leave the Xiao clan. Xiao Xue, who was in the crowd, unwillingly glanced at the stage. Then, she turned around and squeezed into the crowd, quickly leaving the plaza. Xiao Ku was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He clenched his fists so tightly that creaking sounds could be heard. He stared at Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling with resentment. He gnashed his teeth and cursed. Bastards! Why is it like this? Why are they the ones who won? I can't accept this. Where did they get their treasures from? Xiao Cheng, who was in the crowd not far away, finally woke up. When he knew the results of the assessment, he was so angry that he almost fainted. He opened his mouth and vomited another mouthful of blood. However, he quickly calmed down and muttered with resentment, Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling, so what if you can leave the Xiao clan? The southern desolate swamp is so dangerous. I curse you to die in the southern desolate swamp. And Xiao Tianqing, you are about to lose your reputation. Do you think that I am already in a hopeless situation? Just wait for my counterattack. At the same time, a guard captain wearing armor suddenly appeared in the plaza. This person's face was as gloomy as ice. His eyes were as anxious as fire. He quickly passed through the crowd and flew to the stage. He anxiously walked to the first elder's side and bowed to the first elder. Then, he transmitted a message to the first elder. The first elder originally had a smile on his face and was encouraging the Xiao clan's disciples to work hard in the future. Suddenly, when he heard the guard captain's message, his expression changed drastically. His body stiffened as he stood rooted to the ground. He involuntarily asked the guard captain, "Is this true?" The guard captain anxiously nodded and said, "First elder, this is definitely true. Quickly go and take a look." The first elder's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. His eyes surged with a cold light as he shouted angrily, "This is impossible. The Heaven Ascension scripture has always been in my secret chamber." Chapter 1185. The great elder was so agitated that he roared in front of the crowd. The bustling square quieted down in an instant. Everyone was stunned as they looked at the great elder in disbelief. The other 7 elders were also dumbfounded. They looked at the great elder in bewilderment and couldn't help but ask questions. What's going on? Has the ancestral divine skill been stolen? How is this possible? The soaring white sun scripture has always been in the great elder's care. It has never been stolen for hundreds of years. This is too serious. We must investigate thoroughly. If any of our disciples dared to steal it, I'll be the first to punish them. That's right. No matter which branch this person belongs to, no matter what his background or reason is, we must not let him off. All the elders were filled with righteous indignation and wanted to send people to investigate. They swore to punish the person who stole the divine skill. The thousands of Xiao clan members in the square were also filled with doubt and shock. They found it unbelievable and started to discuss among themselves. The great elder quickly suppressed his anger and said coldly, "All of you wait here. I'll go and check on the situation now." After saying that, he brought the captain of the guards and flew across the night sky at lightning speed. They rushed back to their residence. After the first elder left, The 7 elders on the stage gathered together to discuss countermeasures. The thousands of people in the square were discussing even more intensely. They exclaimed and cursed angrily from time to time. Everyone knew that this matter was too serious. Once it was confirmed that the ancestral divine skill had been stolen, the Xiao clan would be in turmoil. Even if they had to dig 3 feet into the ground, the Xiao clan would find the person who stole the divine skill and punish him. In the crowd, Xiao Chong and Xueqi were quietly treating their injuries. However, their eyes kept glancing at Ji Tianqing from afar. Both of their eyes were filled with a mocking sneer. Compared to the show that was about to come, the humiliation and failure they had suffered before were nothing. Although they didn't show it on their faces, they were sneering in their hearts. They couldn't wait to see Ji Tianqing being punished. Unknowingly, 15 minutes had passed. The great elder brought the captain of the guards back to the square with an ashen face. The noisy square immediately quieted down. Everyone turned to look at the great elder. The grand elder's body was shrouded in a layer of cold air and killing intent. With a cold voice he said, "I've just investigated. The soaring sun scripture that has been kept in the secret chamber has indeed been stolen by someone. The soaring white sun scripture is a soul-grade cultivation technique created by our old ancestor. It is also the divine cultivation technique and capital of our Xiao clan. But now, someone had actually stolen the divine technique passed down from their ancestors. Such a disgraceful act of deceiving one's master and destroying one's ancestors was truly shocking, and it had never appeared in the past few hundred years. There is no need for me to explain the seriousness of the matter. Everyone should understand." The dignified voice of the first elder spread throughout the entire square. His tone was extremely low, icy cold, and contained piercingly cold killing intent. Everyone felt a deep chill. A deep sense of reverence rose in their hearts as they looked at the great elder with a solemn expression. The great elder's gaze swept across the square like lightning. With a deep voice he said, "It happened yesterday or today. The traitor who stole the divine technique passed down from our ancestors might be in the square right now. I will now give you a chance to repent and start anew. If you take the initiative to confess, I will be lenient and spare your life. If you don't cherish this chance and refuse to confess, I will sentence you to death when I find out the truth." The mighty sound wave spread out and reverberated fiercely in the night sky. The dull sound caused the entire mountain peak to tremble. The great elder's majestic aura caused everyone's body to tremble. A deep sense of reverence and fear rose in their hearts. For a moment, countless people lowered their heads. Their hearts were on tenterhooks, and they did not even dare to whisper. Only Xiao Chong, Xueqi, and Xiao Zhan sneered even more coldly in their eyes. The more furious the great elder was, the more complacent they felt. Everyone in the square was silent. No one uttered a word. Ji Tianqing also stood indifferently in the crowd, waiting for the development of the matter. Xiao Chong, Xueqi, and the rest secretly saw his reaction and sneered even more complacently in their hearts. "Humph! This brat is still in the dark. He doesn't know anything. Little bastard, I really want to see how you react later. Will you be so scared that you cry on the spot? Ignorant brat, you probably don't know that you are in big trouble, right?" The great elder waited for a moment. When he saw that no one in the square stood up to confess, he sneered. He said with a murderous look, "Good. Damn traitor, since you don't want to cherish this chance, don't blame me for being ruthless. I have placed a seal on the treasure box that contains the soaring white sun scripture, and it also contains my soul aura. I will find the treasure box later and find out the truth. At that time, you will be dead without a doubt. Now, everyone can report and expose each other. In these 2 days, anyone who has entered my house and whose whereabouts are strange can be exposed. As long as the identity of the traitor is confirmed, the corresponding informant will be rewarded with 100,000 spirit stones and a soul-level treasure." When the great elder's voice fell, the thousands of people in the square suddenly became excited. Almost everyone was shocked. Their expressions and eyes were full of disbelief and surprise. 100,000 spirit stones and a soul-level treasure. This is too exaggerated. This is simply a trump card. Such a generous reward is enough to make people lose their minds. The great elder's trick is really awesome. The traitor who stole the ancestral divine art is doomed. Report. Great elder, I want to expose the traitor. I want to report too. Almost a moment later, more than 10 people of the Shao clan rushed out of the crowd and came to the arena to report to the Great Elder. The Great Elder looked at the crowd with majestic eyes and shouted in a deep voice, "You can report and expose, but if you maliciously frame someone, I will not spare you." More than half of the agitated people of the Shao clan calmed down immediately. They were so scared that they shrank their necks and hurriedly retreated into the crowd. There were only a few people left who were overwhelmed by the generous rewards. They shouted excitedly, "Great Elder!" Butt-Face from the 8th branch. "Oh no, Shao Erzwang sneaked into Mount Chongqing last night. I suspect that he stole the ancestral divine art." Great Elder. Shao Jinyu from the 4th branch sneaked into the back of the mountain this morning and was very sneaky. The 2 members of the Shao clan who were reported changed their expressions drastically. They were so scared that they jumped out to defend themselves. Great Elder. I am innocent. I, Shao Ergu. No, I, Shao Erzwang, would never steal the divine art. I came to Mount Chongqing last night to have a rendezvous with Shao Cui. Great Elder. I was also wrongly accused. This morning, I was discussing life with Shao Cheng from the 5th branch in the back mountain. The scene was chaotic. The people who reported the matter spoke with conviction and conviction. The people who were reported were scared out of their wits. They did not care about their privacy and dignity. They revealed the truth in public, hoping to wash away the suspicion. When the Great Elder saw that the crowd was in a mess, he was so angry that his face turned pale. He scolded the members of the Shao clan. Those who reported or were exposed were all chased away by the guards. Seeing that the square had quieted down again, no one dared to casually stand out. Just at this time, a burly middle-aged man with a majestic aura stepped into the arena. This man was Shao Zhan. He walked up to the Great Elder and saluted with his hands folded. Great Elder, I know a person who is very likely to have stolen the ancestral divine art. This person was brought back by Shao Han from the 3rd branch. His name is Tianqing Shao. He is not a member of the main branch of the Shao clan. He is Shao Han's nephew. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.